Thundergrunt.
Hey guys,
Bob.
I want you to say your names and your
Like a
Twitter
morning zoo
handle.
now.
Right.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, we need these lame sound effects.
Say your names and your Twitter handles.
I am
everybody.
Jimmy George. I am a script consultant and screenwriter, and I am at Jimmy R. George.
I am Jamie Nash. I am a screenwriter. I am at Jamie_Nash. And I have a mailing list. Please join it. It'll be pinned underneath my Twitter. So first go to my Twitter, hit follow. Then go to the pin, hit that button, and you will follow on my mailing list where I will send out awesome screenwriting information and other kind of self-promoting
That was
Stuff.
the best pitch I've ever
It's
heard.
so good.
It's
And I'm
so
Bob Rose.
complicated.
I'm at Thundergrunt Bob, and I want you to go to Jamie's thing and subscribe to his stuff so he can promote the thing that I do right now. Okay, now that all that bull crap's out of the way, we're going to do an experimental episode.
Yes,
Yay!
yes.
We're going to talk about Speed and Speed 2 Cruise Control.
yes.
This is a weird one, but
Which one's better, guys?
Yeah, which one's
Yeah.
better?
In the
But
end,
no.
we'll tell you.
That is not as much as we would love to be it. But we're going to talk about what works, why Speed works as a movie, and then we're going to talk about the failures of sequels.
right.
When a sequel fails.
Why was this one? Why was Speed 1 so well received and Speed 2 so not well received?
Exactly.
Yes.
And I think it's safe to say that
Jason Patrick. It's safe to
poor
say.
Jason
Poor
Patrick.
man, I love Jason Patrick.
Jamie, can you tell us, just to get a perspective on how did these movies do at the box office?
Yes, I will. Speed, which I think was probably a surprise hit. You
Gotta
know,
be.
kind of
Yeah, it seemed like it was.
runaway surprise.
Breaking the sound effects.
Right.
So Speed made $350 million back in, when was it?
94.
1994.
Is that 94? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Mold.
So
Fucking
that's
old.
worldwide.
5 years
$121 million domestically, foreign 229.
Wow.
I mean, for 94, that's
big money.
nuts. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
I don't blame him for trying to make a sequel.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah.
and Speed 2 made not too shabby, 164
Hey.
million worldwide.
Worldwide.
Oh,
okay.
So it made 115 foreign
Oh,
and
wow.
only 48 million
Wow.
domestic.
But what was the budget on it?
it says, if this is to be believed, $160 million budget.
Because
So it
they
didn't turn a profit because you got marketing in there.
I mean,
too.
So I watched the making of.
1997?
Yeah,
That's like
so I watched-
Titanic level.
Yeah, the making of. I don't know if you guys know this, because when I said making of to Bob earlier, he's like, "What making of?" So
I
I
didn't
watched the part 2 making of.
Did you buy Cruise Control on DVD?
Well, it comes in a
He
2-pack.
he already owned it.
No, I bought two. I bought
4K Blu-ray.
got the
baby.
I bought the
Criterion
2-pack. Bought the 2-pack. No, I have a pilot that I want to do that's like Speed 2 in space, so I need to know what not to be derivative of anyway.
like cruise
Okay.
control in space.
Okay.
It has a cruise ship. It's going to
Yeah,
Mars.
it's futuristic. It's Titanic
yeah.
in space. I've always wanted to do Titanic in space.
Cruise ship is kind of a good genre too. It's a sub-genre of movies.
It's Lovecraftian.
Deep
I'll just say
Rising.
that.
Deep Rising. All right.
This is not about what that.
No.
The making of the end sequence.
Yeah.
They built a real front of the ship, and they built 500 feet of a town, and they literally crushed 2 feet at a time with a massive hydraulic giant thing the town that they built to destroy for that end sequence. So they said that end sequence at the time of its creation ended up being the most expensive thing ever filmed in cinematic history.
According to IMDb, it still is, as far as a stunt is concerned. So it's actually still might hold that title.
Which probably explains why the director didn't get much work after this.
No, he spent $25 million to do one stunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's like what most movies cost. In fact, on IMDb it said that it was almost the budget of the first movie.
Yeah, it was.
That
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
So,
they-
there you go,
the
Jamie.
first movie's $30 million.
There
so
you
they
go, Jamie.
tripled the budget
Yeah.
for the sequel.
That's what's insane. And,
Yeah.
and it didn't have Keanu.
Yeah.
So
right.
it seems weird.
They
Is
also
he-
had
so
7 crew on 7
he chose
boats.
to do Chain Reaction instead, which
Really, it was Chain Reaction?
Yeah.
I always thought it was The Matrix. So
no, it was Chain Reaction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They
well,
had 7 boats of film crew for all the exterior scenes, which
Wow.
seems so expensive.
so
It was like a water world. I didn't realize how big of a financial disaster this
yeah,
was.
100 I had no idea.
I had no idea it would
Yeah.
cost that much.
Yeah.
Jesus, why did they spend so much money?
Yeah, why?
Also,
crazy.
it's like all inside. It's not.
It seems like the type of thing that executives get fired for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, people definitely got fired,
oh, yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
1994, just to give you a feel for speed and just where it was number 8 that year. Interesting year. I love going back to these
Yeah.
past
Yeah,
years.
no, yeah.
So Speed was number 8. Clear and Present Danger was number 7.
Mm.
Different
it made
world.
122 million. Dumb and Dumber
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
was number 6 at 127.
A comedy.
Yeah.
Bob's gonna love the next one. The Flintstones at 130.
I like the first
Wow,
Flintstones
so do
movie.
I.
Best honeymooners movie ever.
The Santa Claus at 144.
Wow.
Oh, man.
True Lies at 146.
What a year.
The Lion King at 312.
Holy crap.
And Forrest Gump at 329.
Where was Pulp Fiction on that?
Pulp Fiction was number 10.
There you go.
2 spots behind Speed.
Well, Pulp Fiction wasn't a box office power.
No, it's just, you know, it was a,
Still made
for an indie movie. That's amazing.
These
Yeah.
are, by the way, these are domestics.
Okay.
But the Pulp made almost as much as Speed. I mean, it made like 15 million less. Which
yeah,
is,
wow.
So pretty damn good for a movie
94.
like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Sundance.
What about 97? Did you not look?
Thanks a lot. I mean,
I'm sorry.
because I'm sure it's going to come. I can look it up in 2 seconds. Interestingly enough, what was the number 1 movie of 97? It's thematic
Thematic is
to this.
To this?
The Matrix.
Titanic.
Titanic!
And that, I wanted to know, with your, all that trivia that you looked up, Bob, did you
Yeah.
find any reason for this movie being made knowing that Titanic was coming
No.
out?
I read nothing about
There's
that.
nothing related to that?
But
You
my
would
thought on
think
that is that James Cameron kind of makes movies outside of the system while still making them in the system. So that it's not something that like they would have been privy to.
Okay, because
You
the
know what I
reason
mean?
I asked that is because
It's
we
a ship.
have this lots of we have this happen a lot. We have the dueling volcano movies. We have the
Especially in the
Armageddon and
90s.
Big Impact. We
Red
have,
Planet and Mission of Mars.
And Mission of Mars.
Yeah.
So it seems like this is right in line with that, with the Titanic and Speed 2 Cruise Control. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I never even put that together.
it's the same
How much
time.
did Titanic cost to make?
This is Titanic.
Titanic, I think, was like 160.
This
200. Yeah, that's what I'm shocked
Is
at.
that-
Bob is losing.
I mean, isn't that an amazing
No,
factoid?
I learned that today. I
Isn't
didn't
that
know until
incredible,
right now.
though? Like,
Yeah, I-
Costs as much as the
As
Titanic.
no. So
Wow.
Titanic, it
so
has
good.
it has Titanic listed as at 200. So it was a little.
Oh,
Okay,
but
a
that's
little
still
bit
like
more,
it
yeah.
shouldn't even be over 100. The fact that
Yeah.
it was that much.
Well, Titanic
Yeah.
didn't have any stunts as good as Cruise Control. nor did
Poor
it.
Cruise Control.
Nor did it have Jason Patrick.
Right.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so 97, just to give you a feel here, 97, some of the movies, it came in 36, 36? No, where did I lose it here?
Which-
Speed. I'm sorry, it came in
Cruise Control.
40th place. It was 40th place.
Man.
It beat out Return of the Jedi special edition.
special
Special
edition,
edition.
right?
40 at 46. But some of the movies around 40, just to give you a feel. The Game was 41.
Wow. Okay.
Um,
Fincher. Early
Volcano beat it at 39.
Fincher. Volcano. Oh, I didn't realize it was the same year that I was talking about the dueling volcano
Volcano
movies.
movies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So things like 27, Mouse Hunt.
Okay, yeah.
You know,
God, I love
First
Mouse
Dream
Hunt so
were
dearly.
one of
the
first
Devil's
Dream, yeah.
Advocate at 29. I'm surprised that didn't make more.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a
Keanu.
surprise hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, another Keanu.
Keanu movie.
Con Air at 15, and number 1 that year, Titanic, of course, but Men in Black number 2.
Number
Wow,
2.
see,
We've
yeah.
done 297 movies.
And I can't, you know what? I can't believe I've never thought about Cruise Control and Titanic coming out in the same year.
Yeah.
It's never occurred to me
I think
in my life.
I think I blocked it out of my mind.
Yeah.
But isn't that hilarious, though?
Yeah.
Like, there was 2 cruise ship
It feels
movies, and one was the
intentional.
worst ever, and one was, like, the most successful ever. What are the
Worst
chances?
flop ever. Yeah.
Yeah, like, what are the chances of that happening?
Yeah,
Kind
man.
of nuts if you think
Yeah.
about it.
It
That's
would have
why I
made a
was
good double
asking-
feature back in the day.
It'd make a great double feature
what a
now.
double feature. Yes.
It's a great double feature
Which
now.
plays
my
first, though?
gosh.
Which plays first?
Oh, I
Ooh,
think Titanic.
Titanic.
And then
So-
Cruise Control.
I wasn't
Yeah.
sure what the double feature philosophy. Did you
Well,
play the good
dude,
movie,
the
and then you-
late night movie.
Put Billy
It's the worst.
Zane on Cruise on Speed 2. That's a great. Oh man,
Yeah, I would say like if you did a double feature,
dude, I'd love to see Billy Zane. in this
you
movie
put the
now.
late night movie last.
Okay.
So it's the Cruise Control,
Yeah.
even though it's not fun. It's
No.
like, it's not.
but it thinks it is.
No.
Um,
Okay. Who wrote these movies?
Okay.
Now that's a stumper. God,
Graham
no,
Yost is
it's
the
not.
first one.
No.
Graham Yost. Yeah.
So the first one was written by Graham Yost, and it took a long time to develop.
Okay.
I know he rewrote, like, his first version was just on the bus, and I think it had the elevator.
I could see that.
But it ended. It
the
didn't have
bus.
the subway scene.
Gotcha.
I think it was at another
Yeah.
studio. They asked him to put the. Here's the weird. I remember listening to the commentary. They asked him to put the subway scene in. They thought too much on the bus. They said, okay, we need more movie.
Gotcha.
They did the subway scene, and then they said the movie's too expensive with the subway scene.
So they did it as an animatic, right?
No, they went to another studio.
Oh.
So
okay.
they ended up in another studio. Josh Whedon is very public about having written on this movie, and same with Graham Yost. He talks about Josh Whedon having written a lot of the dialogue. and, like,
Really?
yeah.
It's in IMDb. It says
Pop quiz, hot shot, all that comes from Josh Whedon.
It said on IMDb. It said according to Graham Yost, Whedon wrote most of the dialogue.
How about that?
if you
Yeah.
Google it, because
but he's not credited as a writer.
He's not.
No.
And I've
Yeah.
read Josh Whedon autobiographies, and he was kind of crushed by it because he thought he did a great job. He wrote the production drafts of it. So
Oh
the final
my
drafts.
gosh.
And I have been in that situation once where I wrote the production drafts, and I think you do feel like you deserve a credit.
Oh, where you
even
didn't
though-
get the
where
credit?
I didn't get a credit. I had that happen one time, and I wrote all the dialogue and the jokes and all stuff, and then I didn't get a credit, and it's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But my movie wasn't Speed. It wasn't even Speed 2. Cruise Control.
What is
So
though?
yeah, exactly. So I can only imagine how kind of heartbreaking that could be early in your career.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Probably
He was okay.
He ended up okay.
Yeah.
He ended up fine.
And who wrote Speed 2? Because
Speed 2.
he gets a character credit.
Yes.
Really?
Graham Yost. Well, yeah, he wrote her
Oh, okay.
character.
Oh, characters by. I understand.
Well, there's 2 characters from the first movie in this movie
two. Yeah.
because
two.
it's the Maurice, right? Is
yeah,
that his name?
Toon Man. I don't know.
Toon
what
Man,
it is.
whatever that. Yeah, coincidence.
Yeah.
It's a coincidence. Yeah, yeah.
I don't even think when I first saw this movie I realized
That he
a
was
guy.
from the
Yeah,
first
yeah,
movie.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
This time I did because I was watching them back to back. And I was like, oh, okay. I never knew that. How clever.
It's just like
so-
him getting annoyed. That's what we want to see again.
Yeah, in a speed mode even this time.
Yeah.
It was kind of
$150,000 speedboat.
Yeah, exactly. So in this, the Speed 2 Cruise Control was written by Randall McCormick and Jeff Nathanson.
Oh,
okay.
He's done other. I recognize Jeff Nathanson's name.
Jeff Nathan, I don't know as much about. And by the way, story by Jen de Bont.
Well, he's the
Oh,
director.
the director, yeah.
Yeah.
So I got these script trivia things.
Yeah, let's
from-
hear it.
Oh yeah, you had some interesting ones.
Yeah,
in
well,
there.
this
Well,
originally was
super quick though.
okay. Go ahead.
Jeff Nathanson, what he's done before. So he did a bunch of stuff after this. He did Rush Hour 2, Catch Me If You Can, The Terminal.
Oh man,
Rush
Okay.
Hour
great
3,
movies.
Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal
Oh,
Skull.
wow.
Story. So he's probably one of those many
Oh,
drafts
okay.
that happened. Tower Heist, Lego Indiana Jones.
Oh,
and,
wow.
A video game, right?
yeah.
yeah.
And he's actually on.
That needed a
He's
script?
actually on the new Lion King
Oh
movie. He's actually one of
man,
the
so
credit
he's
writers.
still.
And-
Hollywood. You fail upwards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. So go for it.
Oh
all
yeah,
who you know.
yeah. So on IMDb, this I pulled all the script trivia things for Speed 2. It originally was a Die Hard sequel, so it was repurposed when the first one hit. They had a script ready, so they repurposed it for this. I'm really glad that they did.
You know what? To cut you off, I bet I know what happened because originally Die Hard was going to be on the boat, and then Under Siege came out, and
Right.
it killed that.
It
Is
killed
that in there?
No, I didn't. No, it
yeah,
didn't
so
say
that makes sense.
And then
That
they
makes
went with
sense.
Simon Says instead
Yeah.
for 3. Right. So Jason Patrick, he hated the script so much, he described the whole experience as thoroughly miserable and depressing. He actually ordered them to fix all his problems with it. And then when he actually got to set, he realized that months later they hadn't changed a damn thing. So he said, making this was like nightmare for him. Because of the script, because he didn't agree with.
That's so weird because on the making of, he said it was like paradise.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I don't know who exactly fills these things out, so maybe it could be wrong.
He said it was like paradise every day.
Okay, then maybe
One is what he's saying on the set. When
One
they're
is
making
the-
their
yeah.
thing,
Who
and
knows
the
about
other
the
is
trivia.
10 years
Exactly.
later. Yeah.
John DeBont didn't think Speed had sequel potential at all, but he
There
was
you go.
contractually obligated to write and direct it. So
Wow.
right now, according to IMDb at least, you have the star and the writer-director begrudgingly
wow.
making this movie.
I think I read somewhere too that when Keanu dropped out to make
Chain Reaction. Yeah.
that Sandra Bullock actually was the one that brought Jason Patrick in.
Okay.
She liked him and always
Yeah.
wanted to work with
Okay.
And she made $11 million just for doing this movie.
Wow.
Yeah, that was her payment on. Anyway, Graham Yost's original.
Which isn't even one day of shooting on the boat crash.
She does
Yeah,
barely anything.
He's not even there.
She barely does anything in the movie. Anyway, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Graham Yost's original script idea was a plane that couldn't go above a certain altitude without exploding.
Which I thought was kind of awesome.
That's kind
That's-
of so it has to stay really low.
But it's flying through the Alps, I think, is what it was.
Oh, I didn't read that part.
So, yeah, that's the cool part.
I like
Yeah,
it.
it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and that was
It's hard to maintain that
Yeah.
over. It would be hard to write that.
Yeah.
But
But
I'll
that's
go write it.
it's a good idea though because there's obstacles that you'd have to.
Yeah.
It's just it should have been Speed and without any of the characters that were come before. If this franchise was going to continue, it would have to not
New situations with new characters.
unless you
each
had
time.
Keanu
Yeah.
and you make it a Die Hard type of deal.
Right. Which
And-
is what.
They wanted,
Yeah.
but they couldn't do. Right.
Yeah. We can get into it.
And
Okay.
By
yeah.
the way, Graham Yost super quick. I mean, he's like showrunner of Justified and stuff like that. So he's made a fine
Yeah.
career of himself.
Oh, yeah.
The writer on lots of different television shows.
Well, he
and
didn't.
things
He
like that.
technically came out of this untarnished. I mean, he wrote the first one.
Well, yeah, the first one.
and then the second one is just characters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
did-
that was just his idea for a sequel. That didn't happen.
Yeah,
Mm.
just on Speed itself.
Yeah.
It's, I know he worked on like Band of Brothers. What's the other Mission? Not Mission to Mars. Well, he
From
did
the
work
Earth
on
to the
Mission
Moon?
From the Earth to the Moon.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know he worked
Yeah.
on that too. But a ton of stuff. He's had a long career.
God, that's awesome.
Well,
Speed to other
to
bigger
that
things.
to that
Yeah.
stuff. All right, I'm just gonna read this next transition here.
Okay. And
Law-
by the way, today I think you introduced it right that we're comparing the two movies.
We're,
Yeah,
doing
we're
kind of a-
gonna bring up screenwriting.
I said we're gonna
Yeah,
talk
okay.
about what goes wrong with sequels.
So it's a
Kinda,
little
that's-
Yeah.
We could have just done a Speed episode because Speed's a great action movie.
Yeah.
But we wanted to do something where we pick a beloved movie and its derided
You,
sequel.
you said it.
I said it
Yeah.
already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about log lines. And
Yeah.
here it says we're going to compare the speed factor
Yes.
and lack thereof in Speed 2.
Yes.
Oh, that's a leading question.
So first, I want to bring up this book that I'm reading. So I'm reading. We haven't really done this much, like recommended tools and actual books. But I'm reading a book right now that's a pretty new
Writing
screenwriting
for
book.
Dummies.
Writing for Dummies.
Writing for
And I
Dummies.
took everything I learned and we're talking about it now.
Right.
It has a whole chapter on speed and speed 2.
Right.
No, it is. It's very appropriate, like a great transition to what you guys just talked about,
Yeah.
because this guy, it's called The Idea: The 7 Elements of a Viable Story for Screen, Stage, or Fiction by Eric Bork. Seek it out. I'm only halfway through, and it's that good that I think that anybody can.
the name sounds
use it.
familiar. Eric
He's the
Bork.
guy.
So
he created the Swedish Chef.
Oh, okay.
Did he?
Come on, guys.
Okay.
Bork, 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 bork. Come on, man.
I don't know.
Come on.
I knew it wasn't true, but I was just going to deadpan.
No, this guy. So this guy wrote from
Dancer
from
in the Dark.
Earth
No.
Band of Brothers and Earth to the Moon with Graham Yost.
Okay.
So
okay.
Graham Yost is
okay.
actually quoted on the back of this book as
So that's
saying
very
you should read
relevant.
this. So it's very it just happened coincidentally,
coincidentally
to be relevant.
See, life has coincidences.
Life has it sure does.
Wow.
Bob.
It does. Yeah.
So this guy says that over his years, because before he was a writer, he was like a story consultant. And he said over the years, he's developed a theory that 90% of every single set of notes he's done would be the same set of notes, whether he read the script or not, just based on the idea. That almost everything that he has issue with a script is the idea itself. And I'm not going to go into the tenets of the idea, but I think that's relevant to our conversation.
Can you give us an example?
I mean, this will be the
Speed
example.
to
I
cruise
mean,
control.
Well, I mean, like outside of that, like a simple
like
one.
it doesn't have your basics.
Like Jurassic Park.
Well, it doesn't have your basics. It doesn't have your character with a filmable goal. It doesn't have built into its premise. It doesn't have obstacles. It doesn't have a villain. It doesn't have urgency. It doesn't have stakes. It doesn't have. He has codified something called the problem, and it's like P is this, R is this, O is this, and it basically says those things.
Mm-hmm.
But he says that he theorizes, and I agree with him heavily, that every amateur script that I read, only 10% of what you're commenting on is the written word.
Right.
Most of what you're commenting on is the invisible ink that takes place in the construction phase. And all the things that go wrong with a movie, if people had spent more time making sure the idea was bulletproof before they even wrote a single word, then all of these problems wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's very instructive that maybe if they had taken a hard look at the Speed 2 idea, instead of spending $161 million trying to make it work, they could have bulletproofed it.
Fucking hilarious.
Man,
that
they
is
could
so
have
funny.
bulletproofed it so that it would be on par with Speed 1. It
Right.
was like the idea itself. So, yeah. So let's talk about that.
Because the one thing Speed 2 does lack is like Speed 1, everyone knew. I remember when Speed 1 came out, everyone was like, it's a bus that can't go under 50 miles an hour. That's the idea, right? That's the idea without exploding. Yeah. Speed 2 is not, there's no sentence,
you
log
kind of
line.
see the poster and you assume it's a boat that can't stop.
That can't stop. But
runaway boat. I mean,
the simple thing is that it's a boat that has to keep going fast, right? Like that's
no.
But no, I'm saying
not.
but I'm saying the assumption
you assume
is that it was going to be the same thing but with a boat, but there's no premise with that. There's no like it can't do this or it'll explode.
Right.
It can't do this or it'll sink.
Right. There isn't. Yeah.
Speed 2 doesn't have that.
Yeah.
At all.
At all.
At all.
And that's inherent to the premise.
Right. Yeah.
It really only has Sandra Bullock. That's all it is. But yeah, logline wise, I had trouble. So logline for Speed is super easy. I mean, without even really, this isn't
breaking
clean
it
or
down.
anything, but cocky young cop must prevent a bomb from exploding aboard a crowded bus by keeping its speed above 50 miles per hour during rush hour.
Bam.
That's it.
That's it.
Maybe add like a terrorist.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He's got to outsmart the bomber.
Yeah.
So it's simple.
It's simple.
Everybody starts doing the math in their heads, like the scenes. Oh, what happens when they get stuck in traffic? What happens when they run out of gas? What happens when they, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
That's the whiteboard stuff. Like, what can go wrong with this bus?
That's
all right. Let's write it
my
down.
God. That's why it's so good.
Yeah.
It lends itself
Everything
to
goes wrong.
Infinite whiteboard moments.
Did one script thing though? In the original script, the bus jumping over the broken highway was not in there.
Right.
The director actually just saw a broken highway on his way to work.
So
It's
good.
like, so that wasn't in there
because it's believable. They exist.
Right.
Yeah.
That was always the one problem I had with the movie. Not script wise at all. But just that jump always was a little bit of a leap
they made
of
the
faith.
jump, the
They made
physics,
it.
Yeah, the physics
the
of it,
physics
yeah.
of the jump.
And I think they even
there needed to be a ramp. They didn't admit that there was a ramp there.
Tried to do a ramp, but then they thought it was just too
ridiculous.
weird or,
I always thought they should have had the cops. We're not rewriting it, but
Yeah.
they should have had the cops go up first and put it there while it was speeding
Yeah,
towards
it
it.
The
makes
jump
sense.
works for me, man.
Oh yeah, no. I
Because
think
it kind
what
of
they, Jamie,
launches and it goes.
they never really show you is that the second half was lower.
Yeah,
They never really show you.
That's the part. In my mind, I
Yeah.
would say the second half was lower, but it doesn't look that way.
No, it
'cause I
doesn't.
don't think it is.
Because it's shot from like
Yeah.
this
But
angle.
that's all
Right.
they would have had to do is do like this.
Yeah,
something,
got you.
That's
The
how
way it
easy
was
the script
framed.
has to be.
Yeah.
Is that we can talk about the stunts.
Yeah.
It doesn't. You know what I mean? Like
This is not
Yeah.
a script thing, but that was always
Yeah.
like even when I was watching it the other night when it was coming up, I was like, this is one thing I don't like about this movie.
it's
but
the
anyway,
jump.
I like the idea of it. I just don't
Yeah.
like the way it was executed.
But you know what? It's like it's the aftermath of that, the moment that sells it.
Yeah.
It's everyone being so happy they're alive. They're alive. They
Yeah.
lived. Yeah.
So the log line for Speed 2. I'm not.
$160 million.
Yeah, $160 million movie that's not
On a
Titanic. What was the $160 million movie made in 1997 on a boat? Everybody
With starring a famous woman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's,
But anyway, so I don't know if it's because I have a hard time paying attention to Speed 2 or what it is, but I really have a hard time coming up with the log line.
Do you know
for it.
why? Because it follows what you've used. You've said this advice before, Jamie. Log lines are really good when crafting a story. They're not really good when a story has been crafted
And you have to
you have to
reverse
reverse
engineer it.
engineer and try to make it sound good.
and when it's badly crafted, it's
That's
even
what
harder.
it is.
Yeah.
It's hard to write
Yeah.
a good log line for this because it's not simple. It's kind of not
So-
clean.
And this is going to get into what is probably the problem with the movie, but their initial goals, like what's happening, like the meat of the movie, the promise of the premise.
What is the promise of the premise, though?
It seems like the promise of the premise, and this is me reverse engineering it and not trying to better it. Like I'm not trying to clean it up
Yeah.
or say it's Die Hard on a boat because it really isn't Die
No.
Hard on a boat. It's the boat.
It's not even speed on a boat.
No,
It's,
it's not.
it's closer to Titanic on a boat in
It's
some ways.
Titanic. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Titanic.
Yeah.
On a boat. That doesn't make sense. It's Titanic.
Titanic, but on a boat.
The worst bitch ever.
Except it's never in
No iceberg.
danger of sinking.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
there's,
sinking never comes up.
That's what,
there's a
dude.
few
Imagine if it did. That'd be awesome.
there's a few
So good.
mini problems that our heroes have to fix on the boat. That's if
Hero.
hero. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem with it.
Mhm.
Is there's the problem. It's not really related to the villain. The villain causes them, but it
Yeah.
kind of does them in secret a little bit.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't matter. They're not trying to stop a villain.
Yeah.
They're just trying to help a couple
okay,
people.
So
as they
would it be like
evacuate.
a disgruntled
Here's
former
what I wrote,
employee?
and it was like really took me like a fucking hour
Yeah, it's
to figure
hard.
this
It's
out.
a hard one.
Like I wasted an hour of my life on this planet trying to come
You
up
can-
with a log
you can-
line.
You can
Okay.
cheat the log line, but we're trying to do it in the fair way that
Well,
actually represents.
So
the
I
story.
am actually going to do the log line, the cheat log line,
Okay.
and then we can talk. That'll inform the lock-in
okay,
problem.
okay, yeah.
Okay, the log line is when a Paradise Cruise liner is hijacked by a terrorist hacker who sets it on a collision course with an island. A vacationing couple must stop the boat before it crashes. That's
He doesn't set it on a collision course with an island, though.
To
He
the
meant
end,
it's
right?
it's supposed to, his plan is
the oil tanker.
is the oil tanker.
That's right.
Right.
Which, by the way, when the oil, I didn't remember the oil tanker does explode after it. I was like, wait, what? I didn't remember this part of the movie. It
Right.
does explode. They save it, and then it explodes.
blows up anyway.
I thought that was the funniest shit. I was
for the
laughing
for
so
the trailer,
hard,
dude. For the trailer.
I was
They-
laughing so hard.
How many millions did that cost? Right. The
Oh
explosion.
god, it was funny, man. A whole scene dedicated to this thing not blowing up, and then you got the giant action scene, and then it does blow up. Like,
but
because somebody rams a plane into it. I was like, what the?
yeah.
It's pretty great. I mean, I'm sorry, no, it's not what we're talking about, but
No, it's okay.
It's hilariously
Yeah, no,
funny.
Yeah, it is. Well, and that's what's weird. It feels like it wants to be funny. That's it shifts into that's
Well,
tonal is
I was
later,
trying before I
but-
started talking.
So it's the oil
he's-
tanker, not the
It
island.
yeah, it's all you really would need to
So,
change
okay,
because
yeah,
his
yeah.
plan.
Gotcha.
He doesn't necessarily say oil tanker, but his plan is
Revenge. Or whatever.
the revenge of blowing up a boat by ramming it into an oil tanker. The island never, in his mind, the island was never a thing.
Gotcha.
Not that the movie tells us any of this.
No, it doesn't.
But
Until late.
since we've seen it, we know.
So there's the lock-in, which we'll get to later. The lock-in is stopping that, right?
Yeah.
That's the lock-in, right? That's the premise.
Yes. And when did they actually start deciding they need to stop the boat?
52 minutes.
Yeah, so it's really
Sandra Bullock. Where I wrote it down. Sandra Bullock doesn't find out that there's a villain until 67 minutes in.
So that's what, that's a midpoint, really.
I'm sorry if I laughed too much during this.
Yeah.
It's funny as hell.
So there's
67. The hostostages who are
this
still
was
on
my head. I
the
was like,
passengers on the boat who are left don't find out there's a villain or that they're on a collision course until 92 minutes.
It's that scene where, right. I mean, Jason Patrick doesn't even find out until like 30 some minutes in, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
No, that's the 52 minute. He's like, what guy?
What guy?
That's
right.
52 minutes in.
so,
Right.
So imagine watching Titanic, okay? And imagine if there was some guy steering the boat toward the iceberg and sabotaging all the sensors.
But no one knew.
But nobody knew it. That's kind of what this
That's
movie
what this
is.
movie is. Well, also,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it is Titanic. It is.
I think
it
I
is-
love Speed Seekers.
It is. Aw. It is a movie about the Titanic headed toward the iceberg for 2 hours.
Yeah,
right.
no.
That's what it is.
We just don't know. We don't know what's coming, though. We don't know about the oil tanker until
Yeah, so-
we get there.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Yeah.
just going through the ocean.
Somebody's
Most of the
robbing Rose's jewels, steering the ship in the background, and we don't really know, the characters don't know about him, but we know about him.
Right.
There's
The
a
superior
subplot.
position.
We're
Yeah.
in the superior position. And
The
Which
au-
we are in the first
The audience
movie.
is in this.
Yeah, the
right.
audiences. And the
Okay.
audience is in the first one, too.
And this is really going back to the idea of the
That's
book you talked
that's
about.
why I brought it up.
It's the crux of the problem of the whole movie. The whole movie falls apart because there's no urgency. They could get off the boat. They could escape the boat. They don't care. They could, at any time, they could kind of just jump in a lifeboat,
Yep.
run away, or not care. Go back
Right.
to their
Also,
rooms.
Yep,
or something,
exactly.
There is a distinct lack of explanation of the technology of what he was doing. So
Yes.
the whole time when I was like, okay, if there's all these problems arising, how come they're not calling for help? And then it was like 10 minutes from when I thought that he said, I scrambled all the signals. And I was like, well, I didn't know that. So if the audience doesn't know, well, I'm like,
How
why are
we
they not
supposed to
asking for help?
understand?
Why didn't
Yeah.
they try?
How are
Yeah.
we supposed to understand?
Because they're
right?
ocean liner, they're in like constant contact with satellites and land and
Nonstop. It's
nonstop.
inherent to the thing.
right.
Yeah.
So it just they didn't make
Yeah.
a point of showing
To
that.
compare
So
the lock-in moment for Speed, when do you think the lock-in moment for the original Speed?
the explosion, the first explosion with the bus.
It is.
You remember when the bus driver dies? Yeah.
Yeah.
The lock-in moment? Where is it? I actually wrote it down. Silence. 30 minutes. Pop quiz. Hot shot. There's a bomb on the bus. Once the bus goes 50 miles per hour, the bomb is armed. It drops below 50. It blows up. What do you do? That's 30 minutes.
30 minutes. So
That's right after what I said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, when the first bus blows up.
Yeah.
And then he gets the phone call.
So that's a
Yeah.
typical lock-in. Your hero has a goal.
Right.
It's the promise of the premise.
Right.
It
And
sets
Speed
up
has one
log
of the
line.
best lock-ins ever because it's like we're on. It doesn't stop from
And
that second.
In that
It's like,
second.
yeah.
And they do that great thing, which I always encourage writers to do, is they show us the end, right? The bus blows up, and we visually understand, and
This
our
was
hero,
what- yeah.
this is what it's going to look like if the villain wins.
And the stakes are up because a man was in the bus too.
Right, exactly. And he knew him.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Damn.
So there you go. That's the
So
lock-in.
yeah, I mean, the
The
yeah.
comparison is what's making me laugh so
yeah,
much.
this
It's
is
so
this is
funny.
awesome. This is awesome. Yeah, I mean, I basically wrote it like this is Pop Quiz. What do you do? The movie versus the Austin Powers scene where the steamroller is slowly crawling towards the guy. He's
Right.
like, yeah,
The ticking clocks.
yeah.
Ticking clocks.
So I mean, God.
How
When
does Speed create ticking
Okay,
clocks?
so
I
like,
mean, it's
what-
so obvious.
so like we define so okay. I said this in the last episode, but I'm reading a strip right now that is devoid of urgency.
Mhm.
There is not a single deadline or type of time pressure for the characters to achieve their goals. So they're just kind of milling around. They got goals, they got obstacles, but they could really seek out those goals whenever they wanted. It doesn't matter.
There's
right?
no why now.
Right. There's no why now. Yeah. So like what is urgency? What is time pressure? It is we have to achieve the goal before the deadline runs out on this ticking clock, or else stakes are suffered. Right? That's why you feel urgency. Right. So speed, like I'll give you speed. The first ticking clock mechanism is 3 minutes in, and we never go more than 2 minutes for the duration after that without either a resetting of a clock or a new force of urgency. To give you an example, when they're on the bus, the bus driver gets shot. So we have a new urgency. He's bleeding. We have to get him off the bus before, like,
it's a ticking clock on a ticking clock.
Right. The movie is filled with those things. Right. But right at 7 minutes, we got 13 passengers in an express elevator below 4:30. Bombers already taken out the cables. Bomber wants $3 million, or he blows the emergency brakes. And Jeff Daniels says, "What's our clock?" And he gave us 1 hour. And then the other guy says, "But that leaves us with only 23 minutes." So the clock is.
And then he says, "What if we remove it?" And then that's when they hook it to the thing.
Dude, there's so much. Right. There's 16.
The characters know about the clocks.
There's 16 ticking clock mechanisms in the elevator sequence alone.
Wow.
There's only 24 ticking clock mechanisms in the whole of Speed 2. I went through, and I'm not gonna go through them all, but that just gives you, there's more urgency in the elevator sequence than in the entire movie of Speed 2, and that's inherent because they're slowly crawling toward the oil tanker. It's the premise.
This is kind of like Ticking Clock Mechanism, the movie, really. The first one.
I'm trying to remember exactly in Speed 2, but I barely remember the ticking clocks. There's the boat, there's the tanker, and they save the day with that. But then once it gets to the island, they don't even stop it.
They are,
which is a weird thing.
Going,
it didn't. Nothing was accomplished.
It would be like the bus blew up at the end of
It's so weird. 4 knots.
It's really
3 knots.
I love that. The guy just keeps saying it.
There's some take.
The triumph of the characters in Speed 2 is that they didn't get sucked under the boat or fall out or anything like that. That's there wasn't even like a drowning danger,
urgency,
really.
Yeah,
it's like I was like, really, is Jason Patrick not getting sucked into a propeller? And then the boat just literally crashes. I was like, they didn't really do much.
There's a little bit of urgency. There's
there is.
There's gotta find the girl in the elevator. There's now the little girl's about to be drowned in the flood. We got to get the girl before she drowns in the flood.
And the girl in the elevator, the audience knows about her for a very long stretch of time.
I know.
Nobody knows there's a girl in the elevator.
I mean, there's 24.
And she gets out by herself.
There's 24 like that.
She gets out by herself, by the way. She ends her own ticking clock mechanism.
It's insane. But the first ticking clock in Speed 2 doesn't start until 21 minutes.
Oh, wow. And what is that event?
That is Geiger plants the transmitter onto the controls. So we're now wondering how long until he activates his plan.
Can I also say that I'm not trying to rewrite the movie, but I assumed that I must have forgot that a ticking clock mechanism would have been with his health. His health is
irrelevant.
Is irrelevant
to the story.
They wanted like William Dafoe putting leeches on his body, but I was like, shouldn't he have been like actively getting sicker or something?
Dude.
So at the end of the movie, he looks like monstrous or something. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like he starts to get sicker as he starts to fail.
Yeah.
Or something.
I mean, we could skip to the villain's plan and then go back to the heroes.
No, I just want to say,
I thought
about that. I thought his like death would actually become a ticking clock. I haven't seen this movie in so long.
Yeah.
And it was
irrelevant.
Totally irrelevant.
It was tacked on.
It was tacked on, yeah.
Use it or lose it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing we skipped over with the log lines, not to jump all around.
Yeah, it's okay.
is one of the key parts of all the log lines that you have to decide, the first key part of all the log lines that you have to decide is who is the hero of the story.
Yep.
So Speed is very obvious. It's Keanu's movie.
Yes.
Sandra Bullock is there, but she's not the hero. She's just a key
a
passenger.
It's
on
happening
the bus.
to her.
Exactly. She's that.
She's reluctant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Speed 2, who is the hero?
Jason Patrick.
It is Jason Patrick.
Sandra Bullock. The movie doesn't know it.
It's not a dual protagonist because
Sandra Bullock is more of a damsel in distress.
She's
not even really in the movie.
She has the chainsaw moment where she
one or two heroic moments.
She does, and she brings the steps to the lifeboat. But that's pretty much.
But
all
she's
she
mostly
does.
a damsel in distress. She's not.
Which is weird, I guess, by today's standards, especially. 'Cause there's
Especially.
no way they would do that in today's movie.
It's doubly
Right.
weird because she's the one returning
She's
protagonist.
the
Don't-
returning. She's
Let
the
me
one
ask you
people
guys
wanted to
this.
see.
I don't know what point this would go under, but don't you find it odd that they wrote a sequel to Speed and she doesn't drive anything
Right.
as far as she doesn't like steer the boat
She has nothing to do with the boat issue
at all. She's
Yes.
totally divorced. I mean, like they show us that she fails a driving test,
Yep.
and I was like, okay, you're setting up that she can barely drive. Now we have to watch her try to drive a boat because she's the only last hope.
That's the logical reason
But-
for that existing, right?
but it doesn't.
But it doesn't go there. Yeah, yeah.
At all.
It doesn't
It's-
even explore it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
and they spend a lot of time on that driving test stuff
right.
with a huge coincidence, by the way.
and-
When the two of them meet at the beginning,
Mhm.
the,
Yeah.
his like secret mission and
yeah,
her thing.
That's it. But that's the
Yeah.
one. That should be the one. But there's more.
There's more.
Yeah, Jamie.
Oh, so hero.
go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's
sorry.
Jason Patrick seems like the hero. She seems like a damsel. She has very little to do, very little action.
She's no agency.
She's in a romantic comedy.
Very
She's in a
little
romantic
agency.
comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that when I rewatched
Exactly.
this, I remember seeing this on a date with my wife and hating it, and she kind of liked it, but she didn't like
Interesting.
action movies. But then when I rewatched it this time, I was like, "This is a romantic comedy
That
And that's-
this happens to.
It happened,
Right.
and the romantic comedy goes on for a long. Just like we said, it takes them like
Yeah.
61
Except it's
minutes.
not very funny.
It's not very funny.
Yeah.
So but it is, especially how it starts and her driving and the little
Yeah,
comedic
yeah,
scene. It is it's like they don't know what to do with her, so they put her in a romantic comedy as opposed to put her in the action movie.
Which
and
she then became a huge romantic comedy star,
Like-
so that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's odd to me
After
too.
this.
Like they have the tools there.
Mhm.
Like they evacuated all the passengers at one point. I'm like, okay, so the only people left is going to be Sparse.
Right.
And then there's a scenario where she is forced to get behind the wheel of this boat, right?
No.
It never comes even remotely to that.
She's in the bridge too.
Yeah, it never
There's
comes
like 3
to
scenes
that.
with her in the bridge.
Because what else? They don't know what else do you do with her
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that character? She didn't like go to
I
like.
mean, you
she didn't
remove-
become a cop after Speed.
No.
So
Didn't become Linda Hamilton waiting for the next
right, the
bomb
next
to happen on
next
a
terrorist
vehicle.
obsessed with adrenaline, like
Yeah.
And also, one thing that we didn't mention on the premise is as simple as this. The reason there's no urgency is that Speed's built-in urgency is that they have to keep the bus moving as fast as possible, which just builds in instant urgency for
Right.
the duration. And Speed 2's, they have to slow the boat down to a stop.
Right.
That's the
it's really
goal.
yeah.
The goal is to make the boat as slow as possible.
The protagonists have to make it
Yes.
as slow as possible. Yeah.
That's the goal, to slow the boat.
Also,
There you go.
we
the
said
idea.
we've already said it, but we don't even know for I don't know the time code, but we don't know for a very long time that the antagonist goal is to speed it up and crash it into something.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Like we don't know until you see the oil tanker.
Yeah. We
Like
yeah.
really, I'm like I thought he was just going to. He has all these gadgets,
Yeah.
and you think, okay, he's going to just rig this place with explosions and blow this whole thing
Yeah.
up, and he just gets away. He's going to get away on another smaller
Yeah.
boat.
We learn the
But
objective.
we don't know this.
After we learn the reward.
Right,
Like
right.
we
Yes,
see
yes.
him picking up the diamonds before we even
Yes.
learn what's happening with the boat.
Also, yeah, I was like, he's on his way out. He's dying. Why does he want money?
the plan doesn't. Yeah.
I was like, the diamond heist part of it.
Let's hold off until the villain's plan.
I'm
and
sorry,
then-
yeah.
No, you're okay.
Okay.
And we can talk about it.
Comparing opening sequences. Let's do
Yeah.
that. We
Yeah.
kind of did that, didn't we?
We talked a little bit. There's a couple of things interesting. So the tone of it is a comedic tone. It's a romantic comedy. She's there with
From Speed
Tim,
2. We're talking
Yeah,
about
Speed 2.
Yeah.
She's in there with Tim Conway, chatting it up, yucking it up.
Right.
It's a comedy.
I would have watched a romantic comedy about that character that wasn't an action
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Like she
think
just
so.
had been through Speed, and then we watch her life now. You know?
And the,
Yeah.
the big difference between, and there's that huge coincidence where the cops show up and
Right.
they
Yeah.
run into each other.
Yeah.
Which again, you get one coincidence. That's not where I would choose to take the coincidence.
No.
And they do take another coincidence, which is that they end up on a boat
with
with a terrorist.
the terrorist.
Again,
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
big one.
so they
Yeah.
really doubled
That's the Die Hard 2
That's
coincidence.
the one. That's
Yeah.
the one you should be
so,
getting.
so that
Right.
makes
Yeah.
their coincidence bad. Like if the
Yeah.
story was, just as an example, if the story was really about a woman who finds out the guy's a cop and never wants to marry a cop, that coincidence would be the right story.
Right.
That could be right for the story.
Right.
In this, that's not the story. So this coincidence is just something that the writers had to throw
Well,
in to make.
Can I throw this in there too? Like, if Keanu did do the movie and it became a franchise, like the Jack Traven
Mhm.
franchise, like Die Hard, we would have had the Die Hard 2 line, like, how can the same shit happen to the same guy
Yeah, on the
twice?
Same, yeah.
And the audience would forgive that coincidence because
Right.
we're still with Keanu.
Oh, yeah.
We're like,
Oh, yeah.
okay, we want to see Keanu kill some terrorists. Let's do it. But this movie, it doesn't have that luxury, so it can't afford that coincidence.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And then on the other side, you have. And again, I think this movie is setting up the romance. It's a more typical setup. It's setting up characters. She has to introduce Jason Patrick's character, the relationship, the tone. It does all that stuff.
She also has to explain why she's not with Jack
She-
anymore.
She has to explain that.
I think that led to 20 minutes extra of
I
movie.
agree.
It really
I agree.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they said that line from the first movie
Yeah.
like 3 times, I think.
Yeah, I actually think that's what the B story is about.
Yeah.
What was the line? It's that
Can relationship
relationship based on
based
extreme-
on extreme situations don't last.
don't last, right?
And
Yeah.
so it's a more typical movie setup in some ways, like a more
Slow or
something.
Yeah, it takes its time.
takes its time. Then
In
they
a
go on
movie
the
called
boat.
Speed 2.
There's the engagement ring and all that kind of stuff happening
Yeah.
too. But then on the other hand, Speed, it's an action set piece. It's again on the commentary, I remember the producer saying, I think it was Mark Gordon.
Yep.
I remember him saying that, he was sold in the movie from the elevator sequence.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even about the bus. He's saying, I read that elevator sequence and I said, this is
It's
awesome.
so exciting.
Yeah.
It's an action sequence that hooks you. It's fun. It has all the things a great movie has. And
It's
and
a short
also,
film. It's a great short
It's
film.
yeah.
But
it's
it
an
really
epic
is.
short
On
film.
really
top of
is.
that,
Yes.
it sets up the villain's plan to an
Yep.
extent. It sets up the hero. It sets up all this
All of
stuff. It's not just the throwaway action sequence
No,
like you get in a lot of movies.
Yeah, you get the character need. I want to circle back into the character arcs in a minute. But
Yeah.
you get all that stuff. It's like huge world building.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In Speed 1. So
Speed
it's-
1.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
The elevator stuff.
Yeah.
It's a great sequence.
Oh, man, it's so good.
Reversals
And even
clever moments like the crane. and
in my
stuff.
brain, the first sequence, the time before I revisited it, in my mind, the time sequence before the end of the elevator when they're getting the awards and they're at the bar and they have those conversations at the bar, which are really important.
Yeah.
To the time when the bus blows up. I remembered that being like 10 minutes. It's like 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
It like breezes by. You
It
see
breezes
award
by.
ceremony, bar. He's at the coffee shop. All that stuff happens so fast. It's insane.
I also always assume that Jeff Bridges is in more of the movie.
Yeah.
Not
Jeff Daniels.
Bridges, Jeff Daniels, sorry.
Yeah.
Jeff Daniels is in more of the
Yeah.
movie, but
So
I
originally,
forgot how heartbreaking it is when he dies.
in the original script,
It
he
is.
was
Yeah.
the villain.
Yeah. No, I read that on IMDb.
Yeah,
right.
the
That
twist
makes-
was he was the
Oh,
villain.
that's
But,
awesome.
but when he was cast, they were like, no, Jeff Daniels can't be the villain.
Yeah, they just kind of got away.
Boy.
I'm glad they did. They
Yeah,
changed
it
it.
doesn't-
It
I
doesn't
think it
make
works
sense.
much
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that.
Dennis
Yeah.
Hopper being the
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
crazy going.
Oh, my God.
On top of that, just kind of to jump off of that, go to arcs.
Yeah, arcs.
I was wondering, like when I watched the movie this time, I kind of was coming under the impression that this movie there was no real arc, honestly,
For Speed 1.
for Speed 1. However, when I watched it this time, I started to think the opening sets up the arc in some ways, and it's the hostage thing.
Mhm.
It's the hostage thing. It's not a huge arc.
It's
not
clean. It's easy.
It's clean
Yeah.
and easy. It's a guy who doesn't care about the hostages.
Yep.
He cares about winning, finishing the job.
Yep.
The job's
Yeah.
more important.
Yeah.
And then he grows to care more or kiss the hostage, I guess, instead of kill the hostage.
Actually fall in love with hostage.
Fall in love with the
Right,
hostage.
yeah.
So it's a pretty simple.
Yeah, I look at
But
the...
and it's progressive. He learns the entire movie to care about these people.
Exactly. He's
So,
looking...
Yeah.
I always look at in a movie that you think is a good movie, then you go back and you try to figure out the construction of why it's good.
Yeah.
This has kind of, instead of calling them B and C stories, I'm just going to call them both B stories. Like, you look at the supporting characters and how they force the character to grow, right?
Right.
So, like, Jeff Daniels, he forces him, he like says it, he's like, I'm not going to be around. He kind of has two lessons, I think. And that is that he needs to learn how to stop shooting from the hip and start thinking before he acts and be smart. He actually, what does he say? He says, I'm not going to bother.
I mean, he
with the
actually
line.
shoots
He actually
Jeff Daniels,
says,
so-
he says, I'm not going to be around for forever to help you. You got to start thinking. Like, he actually says that to him. And then, like, yeah, he doesn't care about the hostages at all. They're just people in his way, right? He needs to, like, stop seeing these people as nameless civilians in his way and start seeing them as, like, individuals. Like, his first line, I didn't notice this, and I didn't think there'd be anything deep here.
Mm-hmm.
This was surprising to me that there was anything. But his first line to the hostage,
It wouldn't even need anything deep, but it has.
it wouldn't,
a little bit,
but it's there. It's definitely his first line to a hostage is, "I'm not here for you. I don't know you, man." And, like, talk about dual meaning. I mean, that's like his character's problem.
Yeah.
And then halfway through the movie is the first time he learns Annie's name. Like, he doesn't know anybody's name on the bus until the midpoint, and that's like he starts changing through her, and they have that conversation where she's like, "What is this about?" And once again, he talks about everything except for the hostages. He's like, "This is about me and the bomber." And she's like, "What happens if you stop him?" He's like, "It's just going to be another thing about me and the bomber." Like, it's very clear he's not thinking about the hostages at all. And, like, by the end of the movie, he's literally needs them as much as they need him. They're carrying him out of the bus.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? It's beautiful. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that there was an arc here. And, like, when we sat down to dig this,
I assume
I
flat.
saw it, dude.
But
No, it's great. It's clean. It's easy.
Because I would say the one thing Keanu lacks in this movie, I remember it was a little bit of a turnoff when I initially saw the movie. His character doesn't have that tensity. His character it doesn't have any irony. But then you cast Keanu in the role, and it kind of does something. It's kind of like when you cast Arnold in a role. It just
Yeah.
brings something to it. But the character itself has no real irony. It's really straightforward. Like, I'm a cool guy. I kill people. I beat people up. I save people. Whatever.
It's a perfect marriage of actor and material, really.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's well suited. He's well suited for this.
For that,
definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about.
Does Alex have an arc?
Oh, Speed 2.
Let's talk about Speed 2, though.
Well,
Does
first
he
off,
have an
I was
arc?
going to say, do we want to talk about, like, Sandra Bullock's arc? Does she have one in Speed 1?
I don't think so.
No.
No?
I don't
No.
think so either.
Okay.
She's there.
What do you think, Bob?
Yeah.
No.
I
I thought maybe
I
you
thought
guys.
he was gonna bring something.
No, I don't think
No,
she
I
really
think
learns
she
anything.
functions.
and that's why it's not a two-hander. It
It's
really
not,
is a one.
yeah.
Which I think what Jamie was saying earlier is that her lack of an arc, which is fine,
Mm-hmm.
in Speed 1 is really odd that they bent the second movie on her
Right.
when she was not the character that would
Right.
ever be involved in this again.
Right. Nothing happened in the first one to
She didn't change
create
or
the second
become a different
one's need
person.
to tell the next part of that story.
I think there was a thing there because I also heard that the original script, like, it was an older person driving the bus, and
Yeah.
obviously
Had a heart attack and
something like that. So
yeah.
it didn't even have probably the love story
No.
of thing. But it wasn't Sandra Bullock's debut. I mean, Demolition Man and other things. But it was kind of the first time she was really noticed.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
like, And she plays a character
Love
you
Demolition.
totally like fall in love with her. in this
Yeah.
movie,
Oh,
you know?
yeah.
I mean,
because she's innocent in this movie.
An ordinary person is placed into an extraordinary situation.
But she's
innocent.
not given something to change.
She's-
She's
no.
as a human.
Well, the
she's
story
not-
doesn't need her to.
Yeah.
It's-
yeah.
in a weird sort of way.
She's there to teach Jack.
She's
going
to need therapy, and that's about what that's it.
in-
To just be yourself. But,
In a weird sort of way, though.
well, she was kidnapped. And everything,
Yeah.
so-
No, you're right.
Yeah, at gunpoint.
like,
yeah.
I'm not even sure that I fell in love with her in this movie, but
Yeah.
I I'm not even sure it's a good acting job. Like she's smiling through the whole thing, like, "Hey, that's
well,
good."
there's that baby scene.
There is one. It's a weird thing.
Her character is like a ray of sunshine.
She's a ray of
Yes.
sunshine in this weird thing, but
She
it's
kind of made the perfect balance of tension
yeah,
and
right.
relief.
Yes.
Sandra Bullock brings
Yes.
that. It's like
yes.
It was just
that's why this movie works
It was
so
just
well.
great casting.
Yeah.
And then in the second movie, I think they gave her more to do because she starts out, and sadly enough, there's kind of a range of emotions there, like frustration, and it's not just all smiles.
You're saying they gave her a more emotional.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's better for that. It's just
I think
the type of movie it was. They
I'd
gave
go
her more
for
to do.
her arc alone. I'd say in the second movie, she has more of a reason to be in love with Jason Patrick at the end.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Like, I mean, like it makes more sense to me.
Okay.
Why she would love this guy as opposed to Jack.
I don't. In the second movie, I didn't see. It's like they set up this whole romantic thing. Will she marry him? Won't she marry him? Kind of, or will he ask her to marry him or something? But then there's no real learnable moments. They
No.
just have an action.
So
Like,
story.
finally,
that's what I was gonna bring up and ask you guys if you think the only thing that it's like really loose and they try it is he says early on, my instincts have never
been wrong.
been wrong.
Right.
And then he goes to propose to her and she's not interested, and so that
Right.
like brings up the notion that
That's
he
her
needs
arc,
to,
though.
and he needs to learn to trust his instincts again because he stops trusting his instincts when it doesn't serve him right, but then the movie never really
You're right.
explores that. It's
I
like
think-
they wanted to do
Did you guys
something
find
with
it
that.
odd that like
They
that?
make 3 lines about his instincts. So
Did you find it odd that in that moment
it's there?
he says he fails at proposing? She says no, and then he's like, I want to go back to the room. I'm sick. I know this is a really small thing, but I was like, he just wants to get out of here because he's like embarrassed. But then it cuts to the room and he's been barfing.
He was actually sick.
And I was like,
yeah,
wait,
I thought so too.
so wait, he actually is seasick? I was like, but the scene was like he was embarrassed.
Yeah.
I've never seen Jamie laugh. It's funny as shit, man.
I didn't realize it.
Yeah, I was just like,
Just
wait,
so
he's actually seasick and he's been barfing.
Yeah, it's not
Okay.
because he's embarrassed and his pride has been hurt. No.
God, this movie's hilarious,
Aw.
man. It's so good.
Poor Speed 2.
But I think also, I think her saying no to getting married was part of her arc, sort of. Like she says yes at
mean,
the end.
Yeah, it's like
there's not really
She
any
learns that
character work
because
though.
we've seen-
Some extreme circumstances
Because-
can
but
lead to
that's
love.
the beat, yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
because we've seen movies, we know that those two are destined to be together,
right.
and her
Yeah.
saying no is some conflict that needs to be resolved, but
Right.
it's never really done.
They don't explore it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
What's the line though? I don't believe people under extreme circumstances.
Relationships
Just-
born out of
yeah.
extreme circumstances
never
don't last.
Never last. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, hers wasn't even born out of that. It was born before that.
Their
We just-
yeah.
Their relationship was born normally.
Yes.
Yes.
So
So it does.
It
that
doesn't
even
apply to
that.
so she I think okay. In my head, if I had to make an arc out of her, is that since that
Okay.
they were born normally,
Right.
and she said no because she's still thinking with that quote in her mind. And the events of this movie taught her in the end that this relationship she currently has is not applied to that. And that's why she said yes. How's that? I'm trying, man.
I mean, I guess.
I'm trying, dude. I'm reaching it, grasping
You're
here.
trying
but-
to give it some credit, okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm
That's
trying to be
nice.
on the side of Speed
Yeah,
2.
Speed 2.
Yeah. The barfing thing's
Cruise
great,
control, the barfing
though.
thing.
He's actually sick.
Um,
Yeah, well, do we want to talk about the bad guys?
Let's go to bad guys.
Bad
Just
guys.
in general.
Bad
Let's
guys.
talk
So,
about it.
Dennis Hopper first.
Okay.
Great
Yes.
action movie villain.
Gosh.
Why? Why is he a great action movie villain?
You mean in general or this movie?
No,
story.
him.
Yeah, totally.
No, Speed. In Speed. Yeah.
You can't land on a fraction, man.
Yeah, right.
Zombies, man, they freak me
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, yeah, Hopper's immortal, so yeah.
I mean, like, there's so much to talk about. I don't know where to begin.
Well, I think it's important to say he's a disgruntled employee.
First of all, we
Which-
can
which-
relate. It's a
yeah.
relatable
It's a
goal.
but it's a relatable motive too.
That's
he was
what.
fuck-
Sorry, a relatable motivation.
He's
His
fucked. He was been
motivation.
fucked over by the people
Right.
that employed him.
Right.
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 He spent all those years,
then-
and all he got was
And
easy to go watch.
his employee was tied to the premise It's
Yep.
you know, it's
Yeah.
as was Speed 2.
Also-
they kind of
Well,
rip it off for Speed 2.
No, they totally do.
Yeah.
It also explains why
It's
he
the
knows
one thing they rip
explosives.
off.
He's an
Yeah.
explosives expert. He knows explosives. He's got his grievance.
Yeah.
You know, they even tie it in, like you said, where you know, the people that he's going up against are the people that he worked with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how like the cheesy gold watch works into itself and
Right.
everything.
I
Yeah.
think the differences are two reasons, and the one is like this movie, Speed 1, does a great job. It's that we've talked about it in the past. You don't have to do this, but if you make the villain like a circus mirror version of the hero,
right.
then it lends itself to like a really good battle. And
Yin
and,
yang.
and yeah, and
Yeah.
Dennis Hopper, if Jack works for 35 years and gets his finger blown off and then doesn't get his pension, he could become this guy, right? They have the same occupation, they have the same smarts, and the difference is that Dennis Hopper is 35 years later, and that's like a great way
He's
to make
talking
your
to
villain.
the future
He's talking
self.
to the future
He's
self.
talking to his past self.
So
Right.
a great way to cast a villain across your hero is ask yourself, what is the worst case scenario for my hero's future, and then have them forced to face
Right.
that and overcome it, right?
It's-
And
The thing to always remember is we're not too different, you and I.
yes,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Isn't that's what the Joker says to Batman all the
Joker.
time?
Yeah,
You're
that's-
like,
Indiana-
you're just as crazy
that's a
as
great
me.
example.
You're
Belloc.
wearing a mask just like I
Belloc
am.
to Indiana Jones.
It's a great
Right.
example.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're not so different, right.
Vader is
You
what will
wanna-
happen.
You want to know what's in this case as much as I do.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Vader is what will happen if Luke's
Luke-
path goes south. Hans Gruber is not what would happen if McClane goes south,
No.
and that's still a great hero villain.
He's what
battle.
happens if Holly goes. No.
Right.
No, but the second one, there's no parallel to Jason Patrick
'Cause
or
the second
Sandra
one is-
Bullock's character.
It's essentially Dennis Hopper again, except he has a disease
Right. He's a hacker, which has nothing to do with
with a
Jason
boat.
Patrick.
It's a weird thing that that's a
or-
boat.
Yeah.
And a hacking a boat.
So
It made sense when it was Die Hard 2.
yeah. I mean, was the hacker have anything to do with John
Yeah.
McClane?
But
No.
his motive is that he actually got his illness.
Now we can talk about his plan.
Well,
yes.
Well, I'm talking about his motive for a second. He got his illness from the company.
From the copper wires.
And then when the company found out he was ill, they fired him.
Right.
It's a good motive.
Good motive.
For a villain. yeah.
Relatable?
It sounds like it was ripped
Not
out of.
relatable.
Not relatable to everyone, but that's like the emphysema thing with like asbestos. I get
Yeah.
there's been precedent for that.
It sounds
I
like
mean,
it was ripped off of Speed 2. It really sounds like they said,
You
or
mean
Speed 1.
Speed
It
1.
sounded like
No, it
it
does.
sounded like they totally
Yeah.
went and said, "Well, what do we do in the first one?"
Except he's dying.
yeah,
And he's got leeches.
We
He's
can't
got
do the
leeches.
exact same thing.
Make him
Yeah.
eccentric.
But it's
He
going to
even-
be
he
a
even
guy
says
who's
I'm
mad at.
eccentric.
I mean, in a nutshell, it's a guy who's mad at his boss and is
But-
taking revenge.
Wouldn't
Right.
you also question
Which is
like
fine.
what
It's
if-
fine.
what if
Fine.
Dennis Hopper did the same thing again, but we'll put him on a boat so now he can't be in a different location than the thing that we're actually speeding on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like he's on it. He's in the thing.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's like
Yeah.
okay.
And then so the other things I was thinking about is
What's his plan?
so the plan is faulty, right? It makes no sense. Like, why do you need to go to all this effort
To steal the jewels.
to steal the diamonds if that's the revenge is part of it? But it's like, why do you need to?
Well, I think he needs to blow the boat up.
okay,
Why does he need to do it like he does? Is the
it's
actual
so convoluted and
Yeah.
it's
His-
I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm not even sure I could tell you the events of his plan. Like first he hacks into some computer bullshit that I don't understand.
Yeah, they didn't let us understand
what
tech.
that is.
Was he just trying to get the people off the boat? Was that what he was trying
Was
to
that
do?
so
part of the
that's
plan though?
And so
I
that's
don't- I-
another
that's
thing
what I
about the
assumed. I thought he was
differences.
trying to
Because he does
evacuate the
tell
boat.
them to
Like-
get the people off.
Like, I have control. Get off my boat. You
Well,
know?
see,
Right.
and another difference between the two, and why one is a great villain and why the other is not, is Dennis Hopper. His first line is nothing personal after he kills somebody, right? And that shows you he just doesn't even care about a single human in his way.
Yeah.
He's just going to obliterate anybody.
yeah, William Dafoe. It's a shame that William Dafoe isn't like a great villain because he's William Dafoe.
He was auditioning for Green Goblin. They're the
Right.
same character.
Right.
They're even scientists.
Right.
Both
Yeah.
of them.
But it does have this weird thing where he does tell them, get these
Get off the
people
boat, which
off
is
the
weird.
boat.
He
It's
wants
weird.
them to get off.
He
right.
just wants to blow up the employees
Right.
and the boat,
Which
not
diminishes
the
him as a villain.
people. Yeah, like
and it also
as a
gets
threat.
a little weird later when he's kind of like running off with Annie, going, "Ha ha ha, Annie, what do you think?" You know, and
Yeah,
he's
it's
doing
like-
kind
Because
of Green
that doesn't
Goblin.
really line
It
up with the
doesn't
guy.
line up with the guy who
yeah,
tried
just
to.
you
have
think he just wants to
everybody-
get away,
Right. His behavior is inconsistent. Right. Based on what the plan he gives us, and
I think it was like what they wanted it to be was there's a guy with like complete book smarts and no street smarts. Like he's kind of an idiot outside of a computer. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't really know what he's doing.
Right,
He's like, I'm gonna
right.
crash this boat into a tanker. Wah! He's like, but he only knows how to really hack things and like
Yeah,
he knows
he's
bombs and
not
stuff too.
Yeah.
And it's like,
doing the golf club thing is cool and interesting.
that was kind of
yeah,
fine. I
all-
thought that
all
was-
of it is
but-
all of it is fine.
I love.
It seems
I-
like the stuff that would be in a $5 million movie.
Right,
That's
not
what-
But didn't you-
161
But don't you
million
assume like I don't? It's really far into the movie when he's doing the golf club thing. But don't you assume that that's the mechanism that is going to create the ticking clock?
Yeah.
Instead,
no,
it's like
it's just a diversion.
they keep saying the Jason Patrick thing of him saying it smells like sulfur, and I was like, does that mean that those? What were those doing? I don't.
Yeah, they didn't say. Yeah,
I'm not a bomb
Well,
expert
so
or
that's-
anything, so I don't know what the sulfur thing meant.
that's a mystery goal, right?
Yeah.
The villain has a mystery goal of
Right.
part of his agenda is a mystery, and then we find out after he achieves it. That's like one of those things, right? You need to explain to the audience what he's trying to do. Like Dennis Hopper, every step of the way, we're seeing him put the wires in the elevator. We
And-
see him activate
so-
the thing. Every time he presses something, something happens. We're seeing him take action to make things happen.
So
Even-
really quick to define it,
Mhm.
William Dafoe's goal is to get away with the diamonds from the boat.
and the boat,
And blow the boat up in revenge.
Yes.
Dennis
It's a
Hopper's
huge
goal is
double
to
thing.
get the drop-off money. And does he actually care whether or not the
No.
bus explodes?
No, because
No.
he's already exploded.
No,
No,
once.
he
he's
really
just-
just wants the
just
money
wants
to
the
make
money.
up for all those
Right.
years. Right.
Yeah.
and it's
Right.
nothing personal.
doesn't
but you're
care
gonna
if it
die
does.
if you're in his way.
He doesn't care if the bus explodes.
No.
But it's not he doesn't need it to.
Which definitely, and that goes back. I mean, that
He only freaks out because the bus isn't going to explode and I might not get my money. Remember Dennis Hopper.
And
That's
in some
what I'm
ways,
saying.
while we're comparing this to Speed, Speed 2 should almost be compared in this regard to Die Hard.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Hans Gruber, we know what his plan is. There's a twist in the plan, kind of, but we sort of they let us in on at least his fake goal that we can kind of.
He's
the
a fake
thing that's-
terrorist. He's not.
Yeah.
He's going to use that as a cover.
Right.
And it's very
Yeah.
specific, and it's like,
And he's
you
in
know,
it just for the money.
right.
Yep.
And you know what it is, and it's not all convoluted, and he doesn't
It's
have two
simple.
agendas. I'm going to get the money and run the
Simple.
hotel into a into another hotel.
You're right.
But it's
Yeah, and then the other thing that I feel like makes one villain feel like a great battle between the hero and the villain, and the other feel like not a great battle is Speed 1 is building and promising, because of the superior position we're put in, this ultimate confrontation between Dennis Hopper and Jack. We are building to that moment. We're like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen when
'Cause
they
they've been
finally
talking the whole time.
finally meet face
They're
to face?
in communication.
And then when it does, they have a battle of wits and a physical battle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hand-to-hand combat moment in the end, and Keanu Reeves physically pushes him into it's a physical win after all these mental wins, right?
Right.
And then Speed 2, they meet 10 minutes in. They meet again like 4 minutes later. They interact like 4 times in the movie before they know that it's a hero villain. And then after that, there's even like quick face-to-faces where basically the heroes and the villains are crossing paths like 5 or 6 times before the end. And then in the end, it's not physical combat. He just like kind of forces him to fly the plane, and he accidentally crashes
oil
into the oil
tanker.
tanker. And that's how the villain is foiled.
God, it's so good.
So I mean, you explain it like that, and
it's funny stuff, man.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
So and then there's their humor, which Dennis Hopper has like really smart, intelligent humor, which is like if I blow, he says like when Jeff, he's holding Harry hostage, he's like, if I click this button, they're gonna wipe up your friend with a sponge. And then Willem Dafoe's is all one-liners like, doesn't the captain go down with the ship? And like, what happened to that guy? He lost his head. And it's like, it's like the differences are stark, you know. And obviously you want to do something different, but I think.
But we already said that he's the same. But worse. It's not different.
So so I think that
Dennis Hopper was.
I think that pretty much
also
covers the villain.
I don't know about you guys, but
differences.
If you're going to write a disease for $160 million movie, you can't use something like copper. Like I have too much copper in my blood. I was like,
yeah,
is that a thing that happens to people? Like not everyone knows.
The leeches pull the copper from this poison company's computers. This is
like a 4-quadrant movie. Like, that's a very odd concept.
What? Maybe in 1997, this was like a hot button issue.
Yeah, it sounds like somebody Googled an article or read an article and said, "I'm going to put that in the movie."
Did people use Google in 1997?
Copper sufficiency.
AOL
they were
web
on
crawler.
AOL, yeah.
Right.
So yeah,
that's the villain.
One other thing that I love about the villain, you know, the villain hero construction in Speed is, you know, going back to that. Dennis Hopper is the future Jack, right? Is Dennis Hopper is doing exactly the same. It feels the same about the hostages in the beginning as Keanu Reeves does, and he continues, which is nothing personal. Get out of my way. Like he's willing to sacrifice hostages to achieve his goal.
Right.
And they set up Keanu Reeves by even showing him shoot Harry.
Yeah.
That he's also willing to sacrifice hostages to achieve his goal. And it's like that's in the construction. You know, that's that's what like makes them a great hero villain battle. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah.
Well, on that tone, perfect segue into let's talk about the hostages. Let's talk about the side characters. Speed 1, you've got some great side characters.
Oh my gosh.
The peripherals are great. Yeah, I mean, you got Alan Ruck, who apparently was.
I forgot he was in this.
So apparently, I read that in the original script before Whedon got a take at it, he was actually a very arrogant, like asshole-ish lawyer.
Gotcha.
And then Whedon turned him into a fearful goof.
Gotcha.
And it was
I like
the right
the
choice.
tweak.
Yeah, the tweak's good.
Yeah,
it's a good tweak.
Good.
Yeah.
And we get to know their names.
Ortiz.
Right? Ortiz.
Ray
is the criminal guy who fears, and that's like
Right.
another great construction because he's a hostage we have to kind of worry about that could cause problems inside the bus.
That's
like,
another
that's
ticking
great.
clock mechanism too for a
urgency.
second.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, and then there's the old lady. I forget her name, but the one who
Helen.
Helen. Right.
Yeah,
and then the bus driver.
Yeah.
I mean, Gus.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it almost gives the movie kind of an Irwin Allen disaster movie.
Yeah.
An airplane kind of, not airplane, but the airport movies.
Movies. Yeah.
It gives it that kind of feel.
It's like an ensemble for a good period of
And
that movie.
It treats
You want them to get off the bus.
So yeah,
that's important.
The difference I think comes down to this: it treats civilians as indispensable, right? Like if we only have one person die in the movie in the hospital, and we feel it when Helen dies in the bus explosion, like when she's trying to get off.
Yeah.
Like we feel it. Nobody else dies. In Speed 2, everybody's dispensable.
Oh my god! How many people died at the end?
Hundreds.
The ending when it mows down all those people, I was like, "There's like a lot of bodies buried under this boat."
And no one cares.
I don't know if this makes a difference either, but the fact that there's like tons of people on the cruise ship that already got away, it makes it a little different. Like we're always locked in the same people on the bus. Nobody one guy gets off at one point. But, you know, we're always
laser focused on a few.
We're laser focused on a few. In the Speed 2, they have to like pick and choose. They have to cherry pick a
they're
few.
all over
It's like
the
the
place.
three sisters.
Yeah.
And then the fat couple.
And then the mom
Right.
and the dad who wants to get off the boat while his daughter's still on. Let's go. We looked for her.
Honestly, that dad has the best arc in the movie.
I laughed so hard when he was like,
he was like,
we looked for her already. Like, she's your daughter, dude.
But I'm saying But his arc in the movie is the better than the rest of them because he's like, in the end, he's like, I was kind of a dick.
Yeah.
I love you.
So it was a little like Poseidon Adventure in that
Yeah.
in that regard. But the fact that Keanu was trapped with those people in every scene also
Yeah.
adds to it too. They're
think
always
the
behind.
Yeah,
difference-
Jason
yeah.
Patrick has to go off on his
He
own.
has to go, and the boat's big, so
Yeah.
he's not in the room with them the whole time. I mean,
Like, I didn't understand.
Yeah, exactly. So
You
how
would
can
think-
how can you connect with them?
yeah.
Wouldn't you guys think that, like, she would have been by his side through all of it, and then they
Yeah.
would be closer by the end of
That's
it?
what
Like,
you'd think.
That's the
What
difference
you would
in the
ass-
B stories. Yeah,
you would assume that would be like her B story is that she's with him the whole time and falls in love with him like all over again or something. I don't,
Honestly, I think it's some of the misogyny of that era.
Oh,
Right,
totally.
totally.
Absolutely. It's like-
97.
it's
we
like,
don't
a
need
girl
a
couldn't
woman
do that.
to
Yeah,
help
no.
us out of this
Oh, no, the
situation.
fact
they
that
give
she
her
was the
chainsaw
lead.
moment.
Right.
They do.
She's
and
the
she
lead
has the
and she does-
grenade moment where she gets him out of the. It's little. It's
but
weak.
still, like Jamie
She's-
says, the way she approaches it, it's just after she dealt with Speed 1,
Right.
the proper thing to do is to make her more self-aware in this
Absolutely.
situation.
Yeah, to
And
make
she
her
is
have
not
been
really
dealing with PTSD. Sarah Connor, PTSD.
I mean, you got the chainsaw thing, but she's also going to almost cut these people like in the head when they're trying to get through the hole.
Yeah.
I was like, I know it's a comedy bit, but like,
No, I know.
she wouldn't be this dumb. Like,
Yeah, no, I
why is she
know.
so stupid,
It feels-
ditzy?
I
The
know.
weird thing about that era, though, it feels weird that you give somebody $11 million to be the
Damsel.
the damsel. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's odd.
It's very
It's
odd.
Yeah. But I think
It'd be a better movie if she had to like do this all herself.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
I'd be such a like Jason.
Dude, imagine
no
if
Jason,
Jason Patrick's put in the damsel role. That'd be so.
or just don't even
Just
have
don't
him.
have him. Yeah.
She's on a cruise ship,
Take him out of
and
the
she's
equation.
the only one who has dealt with a terrorist
Right,
before ever.
Yeah.
She should be
You know.
dating the guy in the speedboat. That guy. He should be on there with her.
Yeah, right.
Remember that guy?
Their shared
Right.
experience.
The first
Also, I wanted to say this. It's not a script thing, but one of the amazing things about Speed 1 is that it does take place on a bus, and buses are geographically super simple to understand.
That's a huge part of it.
The thing where we, Die Hard does this well because like we understand like where the floors are and how
Right.
far he is, and everything. But this movie fails at every level to tell me where anyone is in the ship at any
Yeah.
given time.
The geography.
You're lost.
The geography of the setting is confusing.
The script doesn't help, but neither
Yeah.
does the direction on
and
that. So
the big one for me is the knots.
Mm-hmm.
They show us the speedometer of 18 knots.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah,
How fast is that?
I just
don't
assume
know.
that
I wanted to go Google it.
yeah, not everyone knows what
Um,
knots are.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
They needed to say like it's as fast as a speeding train. Blah blah. You know what I mean? Somebody needs.
I don't think knots are that much different than like.
but how do you
well,
know? The
I don't-
audience needs to know. Don't look it up. It's not worth
Don't
looking
look
it up. But yeah, I think that the difference in the hostage thing comes down to the hostages are made to be shown as indispensable, and in the second one, the passengers could leave at their will. The killer doesn't want to kill them, or has no intention to kill them, and then when they are killed, they're shown as it's not a big deal when they die. They're dispensable, so like
Well-
we don't feel anything about them.
Also, I like what you wrote here, Jamie, about the Terry Rossio's off-screen movie theory.
Oh,
with the
I
hostages.
wrote
That's
that.
Jimmy.
Oh, you
thought
wrote
it was
that?
I thought
Okay.
it was a loophole in that theory because I actually think. Explain the theory, Jamie, first.
Basically, Terry said the best movies have an off-screen movie that's going on in parallel that you never see. That's really intriguing. So, an example would be like a war movie. It might be two people in a cafe,
Right.
but all around them war is going on or something.
Right.
So it just there's some, and most movies have some kind of off-screen movie.
And that's what makes a good premise. Is
That
what
tends
what
to
Terry
be an
Rossio
exciting-
observed, and
Yeah.
we've used it.
What's
in a
the
few
off-screen
episodes.
movie in Speed?
Though that's what I'm saying. I think the off-screen movie in Speed 2 is more interesting. And the off-speed, like in the off-speed movie and Speed 2, there could be like tons of people on the boat.
Speed 2, they picked the
tons
wrong
of people
movie
on
to
the
put
shore.
on screen.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It should be there's a ship coming toward us. Like, what do we do? And you're in the potential harm, right?
Right.
That's the off-screen movie.
Yeah.
The off-screen movie is more interesting in Speed 2 than the movie itself. And then in Speed, there is almost no off-screen movie.
because it's a real-time movie almost.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, it's almost minute for minute a lot, except for the Jeff Daniels scenes. But
in Speed, the only off-screen movie is like the Jeff Daniels, right? It's not.
probably
once he's
cops
on the
and doing their
bus,
thing.
all Jack Traven scenes are minute to minute almost.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought it was an interesting thing to bring up that like the off-screen movie
and-
was more interesting in Speed 2.
Right. No, you're right.
In real-time movies,
Oddly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we've found that rule it shows why it's not
Would
a
the
well-received
Deaf
movie.
Girl be considered an off-screen movie?
At
With her?
times.
Times,
At times,
yeah.
yeah.
At times, I
Yeah,
guess.
it's a cool. I love.
The two people selling
I
fat
love-
or whatever it was.
Jesus.
What was that about
I
eating
don't
fat?
understand.
It was so odd.
I don't understand. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. We kind of already touched on B stories, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did B stories.
One thing I thought of that I wanted to say, but we skipped over the section in relation to goals. So we've already kind of established that the overall goal of them in Speed 2 is kind of like almost episodic, moment to moment. It's like, let's save this person, let's save that person, let's do this. That's why I had a hard time writing the log line.
The characters don't know that the boat is heading to something.
That's right.
Yeah,
they
that's
think
right.
it's just like
Not
out of
even
control.
Sandra Bullock. Like
No,
I said, for 67 minutes.
But they think that the boat is just like wildly out of control. There's not like a goal to where it's headed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
You know what I mean? Like
I don't
there's
think they even know that it's out of control, though. I think they just know there was a fire.
well, fire counts is kind of out of control.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's definitely not. They're
It's an
definitely not
emergency.
concerned about it speeding into something.
no. Yeah, they're not. No.
Yeah. and when I was watching, it kind of occurred to me that how could I make that work? And it works if they're aware of the ticking clock, so that
Right.
these side journeys, these episodes are important because they have to save lives, but they also have the higher goal in mind. So number one, if there's some ticking clock or something, that helps. Number two is instead make them sub goals of the bigger goal.
Mini goals. Yeah.
These aren't really mini goals. These
Yeah.
are like side trips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Blake Snyder calls it spider webbing,
Yeah, and,
where it's like has nothing.
and because
really
they don't
to
have a
do.
major goal,
If they achieve the goal, it doesn't help the overall goal.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
And-
inconsequential to the
and
overall
those,
events.
those can work if you're a hero and somebody's about to die,
and
you
they
have to
work in
save
like
them.
indie
Right.
comedies.
Yeah,
But
Yeah.
like there may be a sub goal. The bad example of that would be in Speed. Let's say when the guy got shot, they had to give him first aid or something like that.
Yeah,
It doesn't necessarily fix the overall goal, but
yeah, it helps the immediate problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are ways to do it very effectively.
But you're right.
and
The
fun.
stuff that they're doing in Speed 2, except for what Jason Patrick's doing, isn't really
Yeah, it's just-
working.
They're kind of just walking
toward-
all over the ship.
Yeah, working. I mean,
Yeah.
that was another thing I forgot to bring up in the urgency part. There's literally a scene. It made me think like this, like is a micro. It captures the whole problem. There's a scene where Sandra Bullock is just pacing around the deck, like, what should we do? Like that, you would never get a chance to do that in Speed for a single second,
Right.
And she's just like, what are we gonna do next? Like they're just trying to figure it out, pacing around a deck. Meanwhile, in Speed 1, the bus is already blown up. You know,
Right. No, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they couldn't start the movie by blowing up a cruise liner. Like,
They could have.
I
It
mean,
would have
they
been
had
another
the
40
money.
million.
Yeah, they were willing to put.
yeah,
in
why
the
not
cash.
even 200? I mean, we're already here doing it.
I just can't get over that it's 92. When that came, that it's 92 minutes. The passengers say, "Wait, why aren't we slow? Why aren't we stopping?
Why aren't we stopping?"
And then they find out, like, "Oh my God, we're on a collision course. 92 minutes."
Right.
Imagine if the people in the bus found out like 2 seconds before they were
Right.
rescued that they were that they were in a hostage situation. I mean, that's the difference.
There's
between
also a lot of, as far as the ticking clocks, like when they first find out that they are headed into the oil tanker, I was like, and later they last minute go down to the hall and like do that weird manual turning thing. I was like, number one, is that a thing that?
Yeah, I don't know.
What is happening? Like that's a thing on cruise liners?
I don't know.
But I was like, did they know?
There's got to be some manual.
I was like, the second that they found out that they were headed to land, they should have. Somebody should have been like, we have to go. Do the manual chip turn thing.
Yeah.
But they don't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it doesn't come up until like they're about to hit this damn cruise liner into an oil tanker.
I know.
Right.
I know.
Yeah.
At last second they start caring.
It's just a bus is something we all can relate to.
It's relatable. Yeah.
I'm saying like I don't even know how long it takes to start an oil tanker up and move it. You know, they're like, you know what I'm saying?
And they
how long?
They try to say how long.
It's 8 minutes, and I'm like, oh, it takes that long. Like, I'm like lost. I don't know.
You're trying to catch up to the explanation of how things work, right? Like you said, you press the brake and the bus stops. Like,
we get that.
We get that.
But I don't know what it takes to start up like an oil tanker to start moving.
You needed her to be like in training for like cruise ship driving.
Also, he was blocking a signal so much that like even like a radio signal couldn't get through.
Yeah.
What?
He's a hacker.
But what does that mean?
I know.
Like walkie-talkies aren't hooked into the ship.
Yeah, I know.
They send out a signal separate. It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah. Do we? What else we got?
Well,
is there any
escalation?
other?
Oh yeah,
escalation,
I got more,
man. Let's do it.
Keep going.
Escalation. One thing in Speed, and even Graham Yost didn't like it too much. He didn't really like the subway scene. For the reason, the premise is
because it already ended.
You saw the coolest stuff. He liked the ending where they're just scooting out in that little
flying out. Yeah. That feels like the end.
I don't know
movie.
how you take care of Dennis Hopper in that movie, but whatever.
Exactly.
Maybe I don't know.
Maybe he keeps going for Speed too.
But even in the commentary,
he'd have to show up at the airport and then get shot by the cops or something.
Even in the commentary, he says like, "That's the end of the movie." I like it right there. To me, it's over at that point. So
the tension is released.
And there is like the subway isn't it. Now here's the advantage: the subway scene is a lower escalation point, in my opinion, as far as spectacle.
Physical,
but it's more personal.
It's personal.
It's just the two of them,
and that's the difference.
That's the way. Yeah. That's the reason it can do that.
And they make it a personal confrontation too.
It's the personal one-on-one
because
confrontation.
of what you did. You killed my best friend, my partner.
Maybe they could have had like not rewriting, but they could have had Hopper try to get on the bus. Why the hell he would do that, I don't know.
Or one of the people on the bus pulls a mask off, and they're the villain. And it's like,
it's Hopper the whole time.
I've been here the whole time.
Right.
Some interesting premise delivery.
Right.
Some interesting premise delivery things that I wanted to bring up, because we just brought this up on the Men in Black one. It's like you escalate the scope and you escalate the stakes, and like you said, they're more personal in the end.
Yeah.
And you escalate the intensity, which I would argue that the intensity of a train is more intense than the bus.
Mm-hmm.
It's moving faster, but we don't really have anything around them that's in threat, so it's kind of feels less. But
it's also on like a loop, so it's,
we have all these great set pieces. We have high rise, speed in traffic, speed at the airport, then speed in the subway. We start with an action scene 40 floors up. We end with an action scene 40 floors down. We start with
I never thought of that. That's awesome.
We start with Jack on top of an elevator, inches from death, then put him on a car, inches from death, then put him under a moving bus, inches from death. Right? Then put them on a moving train, inches from death. So you take the same visual and then you change the way, like that's like very intentional, man.
Yeah.
Like that's in the construction. There's this great starts with Jack, grab my hand, rescuing out of the elevator, and they reverse it. They build to the hostages carrying him, grab my hand. That's in the construction. Starts with saving a hostage from a still dangling elevator and builds to saving hostages from a 50-mile-an-hour bus. They take the same scenario and show us the escalated version.
And technically, she's a hostage in the subway, so
what's the Speed 2 escalation?
Well, a tanker blows up at the end, and a whole town gets destroyed.
I would say Speed 2 does have in that
they save the big
part. They save the big part for the end.
Yeah,
and it really
it's
we've
just
been
a
waiting
sharp,
the whole time.
Flat,
for that
and then badoom.
Yeah.
It's just one thing.
I would
don't
say
know,
the explosions inside the ship, the golf ball explosions, are
that's
kind of an
something.
escalation.
They show some water inside the boat.
Anything
and
with the
then-
propellers, like him
and then
getting
he's
almost
under the boat, right? So there's some water escalation.
Yeah, they do have that whole thing where they have to dive through the
under
ship
the
and,
boat. Yeah, yeah.
which
so
I was very confused why he had to go under the boat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because if it's sucking that hard, why didn't they just
Drop something.
feed
Put something in there?
Yeah, I was like,
why
the
they
rope
need
would have
him?
went towards the propeller
itself.
anyway.
Yeah.
I was like, later on when they were, later on when
It's so dumb. It's like, yes.
later on when they had to make their way through the flooded compartments, I was
Yeah.
like, why doesn't he have the scuba suit earlier?
Yes, there's
Yeah,
a
right,
scuba
right.
suit
Why is he-
earlier.
Why is he taking this risk and not doing
yeah,
that?
Yeah.
you're right.
It
was-
Shit, I didn't even realize that until now.
I didn't. Yeah.
No, but I guess you could say it's like water escalation. There's like inside the ship stuff, then outside the ship
They do
stuff.
flood the ship, which
Yeah.
kind of adds.
And then he's on a speedboat chasing
They-
the plane.
They do
There's
a good.
some.
They do a good job with. I mean, with the whiteboard stuff.
Yeah.
They use the whiteboard. The
They
skeet,
definitely use the
skeet
whiteboard.
shooting.
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
true.
all-
The skeet shooting.
all kinds of little setups and payoffs.
You're
that
right. They
use.
do.
So-
So let's give it that.
Well, I'll give it that.
Yeah.
I'll give it that.
other movies do it better
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah,
with
and you
with
could
the
have
cruise
done
liner
it
thing.
faster.
Yeah.
In this, to deliver on the promise of being Speed 2.
No, Speed.
Wouldn't it would have been cool to see like a foot chase with Jason Patrick and William Dafoe on a cruise liner? Where they're,
Hell yeah!
you know what I
through
mean?
all
Like
the
a Point
the
Break type.
maze. Oh my
Like
god!
it was Keanu, I'd want to see a foot chase through, the pool area
Yeah,
and all
dude.
this, go to the
It's
shuffleboard
so
area.
much.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
see the ship.
Yeah.
One of the problems, not a script thing. One of the problems is we just don't see this ship.
That is a script ring. That's
think
in
it
the
is?
construction? Yeah, the
We-
set pieces.
It's a lot of close-ups. It's a
Yeah.
lot of dialogue, but there's not a lot of set pieces that feature the ship as a character.
right. Deliver on the promise of the ship premise.
Right,
A
the
ship
ship.
under siege premise.
Let me see more of the ship.
Yeah,
And,
I agree.
And let me have a fight
I agree.
that's native to the ship.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Speed. What were you gonna say? Speed 1, Jamie?
Well, just in regards to premise delivery,
Yeah.
it does a great job with obviously it does
Yeah.
a great
Right.
job. The jump, even though I said I didn't
Yeah.
like it, is a thing like that. Rush hour traffic,
right.
even figuring out the airport, I thought was kind of clever.
Really
that was a
clever.
rewrite.
She
as well.
technically hits a pedestrian baby
The
carriage.
baby. The
The baby
kids are
carriage.
about to come across the street.
What was the deal with the baby carriage? Why
It was
did
filled
have,
with cans.
Okay, something just happened to me that I saw Speed 1 and I was like, that's the only moment. For me, the jump is fine. For me, the baby carriage thing didn't work. And then I went to the store
Okay.
and there was a person with a baby carriage. And I was like, oh, look at that baby. And they had all of their groceries
Groceries
in
in
a
it.
baby carriage.
And you were like, "Speed works
The
now."
Well, they saw the movie
The
and
universe-
decided that was
The
Yeah.
universe was
It
like, you're an
created that-
asshole, Jimmy.
the
Yeah.
movie created that trope. The reason I asked was when I was watching it right before this, my wife was watching it with me, and she was like, "This isn't as good as Speed 2." But no, she's like, so
That'd be so good.
so she was watching it with me, and she was asking me all these questions about the baby carriage. Like she was really disturbed by it because I think she said there was like a line of dialogue, like with somebody saying something to the baby, like "bye bye" or something to the.
Well, no, she was waving to the woman she was talking to.
Okay,
But
My-
it worked. They
Yeah,
tricked
yeah,
us.
yeah.
my, my wife had it in her head that she was talking to the cans.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
she had made up this whole story that she was robbing the cans, and I had this kind of while the movie was going on getting a long debate. That I don't think she was
No,
stealing.
she's
the
turning him in
cans.
for money.
Yeah,
She's
thought
a homeless person
She
turning
thought
him
she
in
was
for money.
stealing.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was convinced they were stealing
They were
cans.
stealing She had this own
was like-
she had this own off-screen
That's-
movie
and
for
then
the
I was
woman
like,
with the
who-
cans.
I was
This
like,
is a
who
gr-
steals cans? But,
Oh, there's a whole Seinfeld episode about it.
oh yeah.
This is a great thing to talk about though, because another thing with far as like setting up your idea, your premise, if you're gonna do a boat, you've gotta make up for the fact that you're in the ocean.
Right.
And
Nothing's gonna cross
there's no
your path.
and they don't do any like wildlife things here. There's no
No.
sharks or fish or
Yeah.
any of that. They're just in like that is a
Yeah.
dead area in your
Yeah.
script.
The
It's just-
obstacles
of the
around
ocean.
boat. Yeah.
doesn't matter till you get to land in this movie.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
then nothing happens. There's not even weather.
Yeah, there's not even weather.
Like, it doesn't-
there's rain in the
There's
beginning.
some rain, but it's like that's not when things are happening. Really.
Yeah. They're trying to escape. There's some rain during the evacuation.
He kills the captain in the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So there's some rain.
Yeah.
But that's it. You're right. There could have been a squall or
But
yeah.
it's like such a change from you got the streets that are filled
Yeah.
with kids and
that's in
canned
the-
people, and you know
That's
all
in the
that.
premise,
Yeah.
right? The premise
Right.
lends itself to all these relatable obstacles. They are unpredictable. That's what's
Right.
great. When you hear the log line of Speed 1, you go, how could they possibly succeed, right? In traffic, in all these inherent things that would make you slow down on a bus. Like, you can just imagine it on a boat.
Well, as we
it's
said,
like,
and Speed 2 is devoid of that line.
just based
A bus that can't go under 50.
Yeah.
A boat that is hijacked
that needs to slow down.
because it might crash into something
Yeah.
Maybe. That we don't even-
Eventually, in
Yeah.
2 hours.
in 2 hours. It's so slow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the last thing I want to talk about.
Yeah,
is
go
the
ahead.
tone, man.
Tone.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Is that Speed 1 is a pure movie in that it doesn't have anything that it's building off of. It's like Die Hard. It's not self-aware.
It's not.
Yeah. It's just a movie.
Yeah.
It's just a straightforward action movie.
It's grounded.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody in it, no one knows they're in a movie. Not a single character knows
No.
that they're in a movie called Speed.
No.
And I actually think some of Speed 2 is that way. And then the third act is where it goes off the rails for me. Because you got, like, the baby looking at the boat, like, big boat, big boat. And all the comedy with that. The lady,
the dog thing.
the dog thing. And it's
dog
just like,
thing.
the dog thing feels like some slapstick, like, Monty Python.
Right.
And then...
Honestly, those moments to me, they reek more of, like, that's what Michael Bay would do.
yeah.
Michael Bay loves doing that kind of stuff. Like
Yeah.
side characters that come in for an action scene and they react to it and then you never see him again.
Yeah.
That's not what Speed 1 really was.
Right.
at
No, at all.
Yeah.
But that's why
Yeah.
it worked.
That's why
You
it
know,
worked.
You throw
yes,
that, you throw those in there. It's kind of
Yeah.
like not the same experience.
Yeah. Right.
You kind of can catch your breath and go.
And I
Um,
think, I mean, tone also goes really heavily with coincidence, as we've said a million times.
Yeah.
Like Speed 2 is chock full of those.
Yeah.
And
Toon Man is
I mean, him being
not again.
Yeah.
like him even
I
being
just
there.
bought a
is-
condo.
So yeah, like yeah.
It's funny, but it takes you out of the movie. It's like this guy knows he's in Speed 2.
right.
You know,
If the movie was like great, I'd be absolutely 100% fine with seeing Toon
Me
Man.
too. And I'm fine with it if it's cruise control. If it's just called cruise control,
Right.
you know?
That's a good question. I've said this since it came out. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, would this be reviled if it was just called Cruise Control? And Sandra Bullock was not her character from the first movie, and
Right.
like it would just be a mediocre thing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
It's the IP and the comparison to a great action
Yeah.
movie. It's not actually. It's not
What do you think,
as
Jamie?
bad as the failure of it.
yeah, because you compare the two, and that adds to how horrible it is.
I mean, it shouldn't have
you know.
cost 100 and some
60
million.
That
but, yeah.
I was gonna say that would be the story if it wasn't. It would be look at this $160
It'd be the
million
Waterworld
movie.
story.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some ways, it might even be worse. 'Cause
I
it'd be
like
why did
Waterworld.
they spend $160 million on this?
On a sequel.
Yeah, well, if it wasn't,
If
a
it
sequel,
wasn't, if it was just
this
this,
is-
Oh yeah.
yeah, why did they spend $160
Like, this is a
million
safer
on
bet.
this
they
awful-
wouldn't.
The
Yeah.
the sequel, and look, the sequel made some money. It didn't make its money back, but it made. I mean, it made 200 million or whatever I said it made earlier.
I think you said like 116.
160.
It ma-
No,
Worldwide.
worldwide.
Yeah.
worldwide,
I think it
I'm
made
talking
40 something. You
It
said
made 48
domestic.
domestic.
Yeah.
But then I think it made like 130 or something. I don't remember now.
Yeah.
Here, I'll look it up.
But-
But 164 it made
Okay.
worldwide.
what was, and it cost what again? 116.
160. 60.
I've been saying 116.
No,
oh my
160.
God.
Yeah.
That
Just
is-
under Titanic.
A movie ahead of its time.
Well, Titanic was 40 million more,
Yeah.
but still. Yeah,
So,
I guess what I'm saying is like
I think if
there
it's
are
called,
worse movies than Speed 2.
definitely.
Easily.
I think if it's,
I
I,
mean,
think
I
if
don't
it's
think
called,
there is.
I think if it's called Cruise Control
It's
and
just
it's a
a-
late '90s action movie, it's fine on the video shelf. It's fine on the Netflix queue as a late '90s
Shit fest, right? Yeah.
barely remembered action movie. You know,
Yeah, I'm trying
but
to think of the movie I'd compare it
Cruise
to.
Control would be fine.
I'm tempted to go with some Steven Seagal thing. But
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
say it's like
Exactly
a
like
bad
that.
Van
which,
Damme or
which
Steven
makes
Seagal.
sense because it's right in line with that
Under
time period.
Siege-ish,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's about as good as Under Siege 2. How's that?
That's
Right.
exactly
Under
great
Siege 2 I can
comparison.
watch and it's fine.
It's a great
but
comparison.
Under
it's fine.
Siege 2 cost $200 million. No, it didn't.
I gasped.
Dark territory. Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that the hate is only out of the comparison.
I agree. I think
Like, we can sit here and tear it down because it is a mess.
it's a mess, but it's fine.
But yeah, I mean,
It's fine.
it's fine.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock is still somehow endearing in this
Yeah.
giant mess.
Even though
Yeah.
there's nothing
But we
for
don't.
her
We're not talking
character,
about
yeah.
acting. But is there anything left we want to say about
God,
this,
we covered
these scripts?
it.
But by the way, just in comparison,
Yeah.
Speed 2 made more money than Under Siege.
Wow.
What did Under
Just
Siege
barely.
make?
Under Siege made $156 million.
Man, there was a time where Steven Seagal movie would make that much money.
Wow.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah, different
That
world.
time was
Yeah.
1992.
Yeah.
That's pretty. Yeah, well,
Wow.
that's why.
I think we pretty much covered every
comparative
single
thing.
aspect of the writing of why one connected so well and the other one wasn't so well received. I mean, I think what I learned is that there was a lot more to the construction of Speed than I thought there was. Like when I dove into this, I didn't expect to find such great writing, and I think it's a really well written script. I think it's really good.
Oh yeah, I still think it's one of the best action movies ever made.
It's so good.
Little side note: when I used to write for Kevin Smith's website, I reviewed this book called "Action Speaks Louder" by Eric Lichtenfeld, and he was a college professor that wrote about action movies. For his father inspired him, and I reviewed the book, and he contacted me, and like I did like a 2-hour interview with him, and I can tell you that a guy who had studied action movies all his life, he praised Speed more than any movie.
Wow.
It was like Speed was at number 1, and then there was Die Hard, Predator, all the big ones.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he like Speed was actually a picture from Speed is on the cover.
Wow.
So he viewed that as like the quintessential American action film.
Wow.
So, I always say that like there's certain movies that come out and everybody wants the next this thing.
It's Speed on a
yeah,
right,
and,
yeah.
And the first one was
Die Hard on a
Die
bus.
Hard. You think of so Die Hard was the one, and
Yeah.
then this was kind of Die Hard on a bus in its own way. But then people wanted Speed, and then Taken kind of was another one that happened.
Gotcha.
Matrix.
But every
Yeah.
10 years or so, there becomes another action movie, and everybody's kind of chasing that action.
Oddly,
movie.
Keanu's in a lot of
A
those.
lot of those.
Like
John Wick
literally,
with a woman.
like look at like action movie history. You got Speed, Matrix, John Wick.
Yeah.
That's like three.
John Wick's the one now that people are doing.
are trying
that.
to do
Yeah,
again.
Yeah.
But I'm saying he's got 3
I
that
don't
were
know if
literally.
anybody ever tried to do the Matrix because it was so
remember
unique.
like Charlie's Angels and
Yeah,
stuff,
a
like the
little bit.
fighting,
The
and
aesthetic.
everything. The
The
aesthetic.
aesthetic,
yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody ripped off the aesthetic.
Ultraviolet. I mean, Underworld,
Underworld.
Resident Evil. I mean, there
Yeah.
was a lot
Yeah,
of stuff.
Resident Evil.
I'm just saying, Keanu has literally been like a benchmark.
Yeah.
I mean, even and throw Point Break in. So yeah, it's like Speed. But I think Speed, as far as construction,
The construction of the script.
and there's few action movies that have the ticking clock mechanisms, like you said
The
earlier.
constant urgency every 1 or 2
Yes.
minutes for the duration.
It's breathless, and I think
Yeah.
that for the time it was kind of revolutionary in how breathless it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't think any major action movie had been that.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Not
it's hard for me to
unstoppable.
remember, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was breaking it down for this was very educational for me.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it kind of also shows, like, if I had my lesson learned, if you can pick one of these concepts that just throws you in it, it's, I wouldn't say it's easy to write, but at least for spec screenwriters, it's easier to execute a good script.
Yeah.
Like, so if you can find, and I mean, these concepts are hard to find. Nobody's done a Speed since Speed. But if you can find these kind of really, tense, high concepts that you can express in a log line, this is why they work so well, because there's the stakes are there, the goals are there, and they're much easier to write. It's just about premise delivery and keep escalating and upping the action. But again, they're hard to come up with these concepts. Otherwise, we'd all
easier
do it.
said than
Easier
done.
said than
But
done.
it's a good point.
But John Wick could kind of be that in its
Yeah.
own way, and even something like Taken and Die Hard for its time.
Yeah.
I think if I learned anything, it's gonna. It was number one. I hadn't watched Speed 2 in a very long time, but I think Jamie said it best earlier. The misogyny of the times.
Oh my gosh.
Reeked so bad in that movie that I'm glad that I have the vision of now to see back then and be like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Like to the actual like the horrendous, egregious mistake of writing her character in that way in that movie when she's the headliner.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just. It was almost like angering. It's angering.
Embarrassing.
It's embarrassing and angering.
If you look at the poster, her face is huge, and then Jason Patrick's face, you can barely see it. Like it's like profile.
Really, also, where was he coming off of that he was
nothing?
No, this was his comeback, and it killed.
Like
it.
from Lost Boys, like that. Yeah, it's like that's like where was Jason Patrick ever that huge?
Yeah, it's so. I mean that, and I think it's almost instructive to see where we are now with it.
Definitely
where we're just making kind of moves.
Don't
Finally.
please do not write a heroine like Sandra Bullock in this movie.
And I don't think anybody would get away.
Anyone would
with
do that,
at
but
this point,
at this point, no. Good.
Somebody might do it,
Good.
but it
Yeah.
won't get sold, and nobody will do it.
I mean, it was like
I mean,
that part was embarrassing.
We
to
just
witness.
we just talked about Toy Story before this. I mean, look at the comparison between Bo Peep and Annie and
different time.
Speed 2.
And that's
wow.
and that's over 20 years right there.
Yeah.
97 to 2019. Yeah,
Toy Story 4.
This is a great example. Cruise Control is a great example just to watch and to see one of the worst examples I've ever seen of a lead and just being pushed under the bus, pun intended. As a fake, like a damsel in distress when she's supposed to be the hero.
I think what I see now a little bit is the male characters becoming the damsel characters.
Yeah.
But I enjoy that.
Me
so
too.
I don't have a
but that's
problem
kind
with
of fun.
It's kind of fun.
It's
in
fun.
Its own way.
Yeah.
They've had their time to be Keanu.
Yeah. And you could still have male heroes. It's just like, don't do what that movie did, please.
No.
But that was 97, so let's hope that doesn't happen again. Yeah. It's just that considering Speed, this is a sequel, and that was her movie. It's like
it makes no sense.
God, what are you doing?
It's so misguided on that aspect.
Like here's this guy. He's gonna come in,
some guy we don't know,
and he's the hero, and she is a bumbling idiot who's in love. And it's like what?
And then after it all, decides to marry him.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not even on like a Romancing the Stone level.
Not even that.
Not even that.
No.
And that's 80s.
I love that movie. I would like to do that movie.
We're probably going to do that at one point.
Yes.
I think that was one of the last Jamie movies, right?
We're going to do that and Jewel of the Nile.
That actually would be great.
I kind of like Jewel of the Nile.
I like it too.
Yeah.
It has a lot of juggling, so I'm into it.
Yeah. Right. Jamie's a sucker for juggling. All right. Well, I think that's everything. Remember to go to Jamie's Twitter,
and
sign up for his
go
email.
to my Twitter so you can sign up for the email
at Jamie_Nash. Sign up for his email.
Be bringing all the knowledge.
Right.
Exactly.
You can also email the show.
Yes, we haven't been good about communicating.
We have not. We forgot. But go ahead.
Writers Blockbusters Podcast at gmail.com if you've got comments just in general.
Yeah. You can also send us stuff on Twitter, all three of us. But you can email us there if you'd like to.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. That's everything, guys.
Thanks for listening.
Sounds good.
Cruise Control. Bye.
You have just listened to Writers Blockbusters, a screenwriting podcast featuring two professionals and another guy. Available only on Thundergrunt.